Excellencies, distinguished delegates, the meeting is called to order. The Commission will now consider Agenda Item 4, Review of Implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development in Asia and the Pacific. Documents pertinent to this agenda item are ESCAP/75/3, Summary of Progress in the Implementation of Commission Resolutions, ESCAP/75/4, Summary of the Sessions of the Subsidiary Bodies of the Commission meeting in 2018-2019, and ESCAP/75/4/Addendum 1, which is the Declaration on Navigating Policy with Data to Leave No One Behind Ministerial Declaration adopted by the Committee on Statistics. For the first two documents, we shall consider their different sections under the relevant agenda items. Additionally, a list of draft decisions to be recommended for adoption by the plenary is before you in document ESCAP/75/CRP1. We shall refer to this document after our deliberations of each sub-item to recommend the draft decisions for adoption. Are there any comments or queries at this time? Moving on, may I suggest that we structure our discussion on this agenda item as follows. We shall begin with consideration of the sub-items 4A to 4F, which aligns with thematic issues of the regional roadmap for implementing the 2030 agenda as endorsed by the Commission in Resolution 73/9. When we have exhausted our discussion on these sub-items, we will move to the sub-items 4G to 4J, which cover the means of implementation. For each sub-item, we will also hear from the chairs of the subsidiary bodies of the Commission, if available. May I ask if this is agreeable to the room? If so, to kick off our discussions this morning, I am pleased to invite Deputy Executive Secretary, Mr. Kaveh Zahedi, to brief us on the first cluster of sub-items 4A to 4F. Mr. Zahedi, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Chair. Good morning, Excellencies and ladies and gentlemen. As the Chair has said, I have the pleasure of presenting review of implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development in Asia-Pacific, focusing on the sub-items including the Asia-Pacific Forum on Sustainable Development, social development, environment and development, disaster risk reduction, energy, and transport. Ladies and gentlemen, the pace of change in Asia and the Pacific has powered, as we all know, phenomenal economic growth and transformed many of our societies. ESCAP has supported its member states on this transformational journey. Now, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development offers the latest and probably the most ambitious phase for the region's development. Countries have used ESCAP's intergovernmental platforms to put in place the foundations to support their implementation and review of progress of the 2030 Agenda, including through the establishment of the Asia-Pacific Forum on Sustainable Development as an integral part of the conference structure of the Commission, and the adaptation or adoption of the regional roadmap for implementing the 2030 Agenda in Asia and the Pacific to guide regional cooperation and collective action. The 6th Asia-Pacific Forum on Sustainable Development, held in March this year, demonstrated how this forum has become really the central multi-stakeholder platform for taking stock of progress towards the SDGs, for supporting countries to prepare for the high-level political forum on sustainable development, and for development and refinement of voluntary national reviews, and for sharing expertise and experiences that can accelerate implementation at the national level. And here is where our presentation, in a way, starts. Because recent analysis on ESCAP's SDG Gateway that was launched at the Asia-Pacific Forum on Sustainable Development, as well as the SDG Progress Report that was launched on Monday this week, showed clearly that such acceleration is needed, as on its current trajectory, the region is unlikely to achieve any of the SDGs by 2030. As can be seen from the slide, while the region has made significant headway towards poverty reduction, Goal 1, for example, for more than half the SDGs, progress is stagnant or heading in the wrong direction. Little progress has been made towards reducing inequalities, for example, excuse me, an issue that was the focus of last year's Commission, or taking action to combat climate change and its impacts. At the same time, the region has moved backwards in ensuring access to clean water and sanitation, in promoting decent work and economic growth, and promoting sustainable consumption. So we're not fully on track. Looking at social development, the key potentially to putting the region on track on the SDGs may lie in enhanced investment in people. Evidence from ESCAP's 2018 social outlook suggests that increased public spending to match the global average would help lift over 300 million people out of moderate poverty and 50 million people out of extreme poverty by 2030. Social protection can also help reduce inequalities. Countries with higher spending on social protection tend to have lower levels of inequality of opportunity. Moreover, increasing investment in social protection to reach the global standards would boost GDP growth and enable vulnerable populations to buffer external shocks, build resilience, and escape deprivation. In this context, the ESCAP Committee on Social Development, at its 5th session held in November last year, requested the Secretariat to explore and develop a modality for strengthening regional cooperation on social protection. The ESCAP Secretariat has established a group of experts consisting of members and associate members to guide the process. And the group will be convening its first meeting in less than a month's time and report back to the Commission at its 76th session in 2020. But Asia-Pacific's growth has not only resulted in high levels of inequality and vulnerability, but also come with adverse impacts on the environment. Rapid urbanization coupled with unsustainable resource use, now higher than the global average, have resulted in growing air pollution, increasing waste and degradation that threaten the well-being of the region's people. ESCAP's SDG Progress Report 2018 reveals that the Ocean Health Index has deteriorated significantly between 2013 and 2017. In response, ESCAP is partnering with the UN Environment Programme and UNDESA in the Ocean Account Partnership to strengthen national capacities to produce data and develop ecosystem accounts in support of the implementation of SDG 14. ESCAP is also supporting the region in addressing the issues of plastic waste, leading a multi-stakeholder regional initiative on improving circular plastic waste management. One result of the initiative in 2019 was the regional policy guides Closing the Loop that share lessons learned and experiences from Asia-Pacific cities in waste management. Moving on to disasters, climate-related disasters are on the rise in Asia and the Pacific. Disasters, of course, worsen inequality between countries and within countries and are undermining development. The Economic and Social Survey of Asia and the Pacific 2019 finds that in the Pacific Island developing states, the average annual loss associated with natural disasters is about 18% of total infrastructure investment, or 9 times higher than the regional average. At the same time, disasters hit the poor the hardest. ESCAP's 2017 Asia-Pacific Disaster Report highlighted that each disaster in the region leads to a 0.13 percentage point increase in the Gini coefficient. As the presentation shows, countries in the upper quadrants experience high vulnerability to disasters, noted by the size of the circles. And this converges with high inequality of opportunity and high income inequality, seen on the x-axis, thus making inequality of impact more severe. So disasters are leading to higher inequality and undermining development. When we look at the energy story, achieving SDG 7 will bring much more than sustainable energy for all. Energy access, renewables, and energy efficiency hold the keys to tackling grassroots poverty and inequality, managing climate change, and sustaining economic growth. But SDG 7 itself is behind target in Asia and the Pacific, as you would have seen from our first slide. At current rates, by 2030, 63 million people will remain without access to electricity, and 1.6 billion people without access to clean cooking fuels. Uptake of clean fuels and technologies is also too slow. The overall share of renewables in the energy mix is declining. And one impact of this story is that millions of premature deaths from indoor and outdoor air pollution. As an outcome of the Asia-Pacific Energy Forum and its declaration, ESCAP is supporting countries to develop national roadmaps for achieving SDG 7. A further ESCAP research initiative is quantifying the social, economic, and environmental benefits of electricity and clean cooking to identify and inform the benefits of stronger policies for clean cooking. Work on energy connectivity is helping identify gaps in the region where increased energy trade and connectivity can help scale up uptake of renewables and plug energy access gaps. Which brings us to the final section, which is on transport. Closing infrastructure gaps is another crucial element of accelerating progress towards the SDGs. An acceleration that, as you saw again from that first slide, is desperately needed in our region. But only if the infrastructure is green, and only if that infrastructure is resilient. This is particularly the case with transport. Asia is the fastest growing region in terms of urbanization. The rate of urbanization implies an increasing concentration of wealth and consumers in cities, which is driving up the rate of motorization and the demand for urban passenger and freight travel, something that's familiar to all of us. Possibly you were all stuck in traffic this morning coming here as well. And all of these have led to urban transport challenges, such as extending transport service coverage, managing congestion, reducing emissions and air pollution, enhancing safety, and ensuring affordability. Against this backdrop, the Committee on Transport in November 2018 endorsed the ESCAP-developed Sustainable Urban Transport Index as a tool to measure the sustainability of urban transport systems and services in cities and track improvements over time. This is what you see displayed on your screens. So far, 10 cities, including Bandung, Colombo, Dhaka, Greater Ho Chi Minh City, Hanoi, Jakarta, Kathmandu, Surabaya, Surat, and Suva have participated in the pilot use of this transport index. In addition, the Secretariat is supporting countries in the region to improve road safety through active engagement in the recently launched United Nations Road Safety Trust Fund. And road safety, of course, is another one of the targets embedded within the SDGs and another one of the areas where accelerated progress is needed in our region. So in conclusion, Chair and Excellencies, many of the region's biggest challenges, from climate change and air pollution to inequality and vulnerability, require multi-sectoral, transboundary, and regional actions. ESCAP's conference structure is ideally placed to provide the leadership and demonstrate the ambition needed to put the region on track for achieving the SDGs. Allow me to just mention, Excellencies and Mr. Chair, that the work that I've presented, not only of the progress within the region, but the Secretariat's response is, of course, the work of of many, many people across the Secretariat, many of whom are sitting in the back rows and who may have been presenting this kind of progress in previous years. But we have pooled it all together and presented it in one go, but it represents the work of many people sitting in this very room. And us, as the Secretariat, we look forward to hearing the views and guidance from members and associate members on how to strengthen ESCAP support to achieve the sustainable development goals in the region. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Deputy Executive Secretary, Mr. Saidi. At this point, let us move to agenda item 4A, Asia-Pacific Forum on Sustainable Development. The report of the forum is contained in document ESCAP/75/5. May I please invite His Excellency, Mr. Fidelis Manuel Leite Magalhaes, the Chair of the APFSD, to brief us on the outcomes of the forum.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. As Chair of the 6th Asia-Pacific Forum on Sustainable Development, I am pleased to report on key outcomes of the forum, which met from 27th to 29th of March 2019, on the theme Empowering People and Ensuring Inclusiveness and Equality. The 6th APFSD reiterated the importance of the Asia-Pacific Forum on Sustainable Development as a platform for dialogue and reflection on the SDGs and the need to make it stronger as it brings important contributions to the global debates through the high-level political forum on sustainable development. The forum was convened as the culmination of 7 preparatory and associated meetings and brought together more than 1,000 government officials, civil society, and other stakeholders. Throughout the meeting, Member States recognized the important role of the forum in providing a platform for Member States to share not only their achievements, but also the challenges faced and the opportunities arising from the 2030 agenda, including the pace and sequencing of actions taken and the ambition to achieve the SDGs while ensuring that Asia-Pacific could be more equal and inclusive. Let me now address the important outcomes of the APFSD. The forum underscored the importance of empowerment and inclusion to address inequalities spanning the economic, social, and environmental dimensions of sustainable development and to accelerate progress towards many of the sustainable development goals. The forum also reiterated the need to identify changes to promote empowerment, inclusion, and equality of all people within efforts to implement the 2030 agenda, including its central aspiration to leave no one behind. The forum underlined the importance of accountability and multi-stakeholder dialogue. In-depth perspectives were also shared on the cluster of goals under review this year: quality education, decent work and economic growth, reduce inequalities, climate action and peace, justice and strong institutions. The 5 roundtables, organized through the cooperation of multiple UN agencies, allowed for exchange of in-depth regional and local perspectives and produced tangible and implementable policy recommendations that were highly appreciated by Member States. The need to accelerate efforts and adopt coherent and integrated policies that looked at the interlinkages between the goals was also underlined. Progress in the region towards the implementation of Sustainable Development Goal 17 were reviewed in the context of the theme of the forum. Participants reflected on progress in mobilizing, redirecting and unlocking investments from different sources and reiterated the key role of technology, innovation, and data and monitoring and accountability frameworks to reinforce partnerships to accelerate progress on sustainable development. Member states which will present their VNR, that is voluntary national reviews, at the high-level political forum also emphasized in a dialogue with the United Nations resident coordinators, major groups and other stakeholders, the positive impact that the VNRs have on both policy development processes and the review of progress. The forum highlighted the role of ESCAP as a regional platform for sharing best practices and building regional capacities for the preparation of these very important reports. The forum took stock of progress on the regional roadmap for implementing the 2030 Agenda. In their statements, countries and other stakeholders called for stronger regional cooperation along the priority areas identified in the regional roadmap and enhancing opportunities for peer learning. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, the outcomes of this forum demonstrate that the countries of Asia and the Pacific are moving ahead and leading global efforts to implement the 2030 Agenda. The APFSD once again provided an opportunity for interagency cooperation and collaboration, and thanks also to the presence of the Deputy SG, Secretary General of the United Nations, the Vice President of ECOSOC, and many UN resident coordinators from the regions who also attended. The Asia-Pacific SDG partnership, whose pillars are ESCAP, ADB, UNDP, has also shown once again leadership in pooling resources and expertise to work together and advance the 2030 Agenda. APFSD deliberations this year have laid the foundation for a concerted and effective regional response to ensure that our region become more equal, inclusive, and empowered. My delegation had the honor to sponsor the Commission resolution entitled Committing the Strengthening the link between national, regional, and global follow-up and review of the 2030 Agenda for sustainable development in Asia and Pacific. We believe that to take full advantage of the APFSD, ESCAP member countries have the chance to ensure that it continues to grow and become stronger, as requested through this resolution that we kindly ask for your support. And I look forward in my capacity of chair to support the APFSD over the year by promoting a more equal, empowered, inclusive Asia-Pacific among my fellow ministers, stakeholders, and other member states, and to help steer an inclusive and participatory approach for the implementation of the 2030 Agenda in the region. I thank you all for your attention.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Delegations wishing to take the floor for this agenda item and others may register with the conference team to my left, or you may just raise your nameplate to be recognized. Thank you. May I now open the floor for any comments. Sorry. Bangladesh, you have the floor. A delegation from Bangladesh, you have the floor.
Honorable Chair, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. Inclusiveness and inequality are cross-cutting issues focused over several goals in SDGs. There are two dedicated goals to address inequality in SDGs, that is Goal 10, reduce inequality within among countries, and Goal 5, achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. And for inclusiveness, the Goal 16 focused on promote just, peaceful, and inclusive society. Bangladesh is committed to implement SDGs, giving due importance on these goals to ensure an inclusive and poverty-free, more equal society. Bangladesh government is strongly committed to poverty alleviation, improving human development, and reducing inequality. The government considers social safety net as one of the effective tools of poverty alleviation along with other development initiatives. This commitment is reflected in the Vision 2021, the first perspective plan of Bangladesh. Mr. Chair, notwithstanding the past impressive progress in poverty reduction, there is a substantial population still lives below the poverty line. Household income and expenditure survey 2016 shows that 24.3% of the people are still under poverty line and only 28.7% of the poor people are covered under the social safety net programs. His Excellencies, like many other developing countries, Bangladesh has succeeded in ensuring sustained growth with an average 6.7% in the last decade and reduced income poverty significantly. At present, the GDP growth rate of Bangladesh is 7.86%. To reduce the inequality, several poverty reduction strategies have been undertaken in the present national plan, some of which includes promote growth by sustaining increased productivity, create jobs in manufacturing and service sectors, enhance the access of poor to agricultural inputs and institutional finance, expand employment opportunities in lagging regions through better infrastructure and connectivity, facilitate overseas migration from poor areas, enhance access to microfinance, and mitigate the adverse consequences of climate change. Distinguished delegates, to address the social inclusion issue, different specific strategies have also been undertaken in the present national plan, targeting the vulnerable social groups, which includes distressed women, children, and elderly people, ethnic minorities and gypsy men, transgender group, and people with disabilities. All these groups are generally vulnerable to extreme poverty due to natural disasters and effect of climate change. Mr. Chair, the government has a strong commitment and rich experience with implementing a wide range of social safety nets program involving more than 2% of GDP and around 30% of annual budget. The government of Bangladesh has adopted National Social Security Strategy 2015 to create a social protection system more inclusive and better performing. The elimination of extreme poverty, reduction of vulnerability, and inequality will be well addressed by the implementation of the strategy. Women make up almost half of the population of Bangladesh, but according to Labor Force Survey 2016, the female participation in labor force is only 35.6%. Strategies have been taken in the national plan for wider participation of women in labor force as well as development process of Bangladesh. Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bangladesh. May I just respectfully remind delegations if they could keep the interventions brief. Pakistan, you have the floor.
Mr. Chair, thank you for giving me the floor. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, good morning. Pakistan delegation is of the view that the 6th APFSD revealed significant differences in achievement of the 2030 development agenda at the regional, national, and even subnational levels. Our region has limited success in reducing inequalities, promoting decent work, inclusive economic growth, and building strong institutions. Fruits of rapid economic growth have not been equitably shared. Structural barriers are impeding inclusive and equitable development, excluding people, especially the marginalized sections, from fully participating in the society and widening the opportunity gaps. These are complex and multifaceted challenges and would require multi-pronged solutions. Regional cooperation remains the key to implement the 2030 Development Agenda in an inclusive and sustainable manner in the Asia-Pacific region. States have to assume the leadership role in implementing various SDGs in line with their respective national priorities, policies, and needs, including through developing effective policies, legislative frameworks, and strong institutions to empower disadvantaged groups, build their capacity and skill sets, addressing the structural obstacles impeding their full involvement in the society, and promoting participation and autonomy in decision-making processes. Pakistan has mainstreamed the 2030 Agenda into our national development policies and action plans. The priorities of our government are fully aligned with the objectives and the aspirations of the 2030 Development Agenda, while addressing all the three dimensions of sustainable development: fostering social and financial inclusion, ensuring equal opportunities for the marginalized and disempowered, provision of educational opportunities, and access to livelihood and social safety nets are some of the top priority areas of the government. We are mindful of the challenges and are committed to overcome them and implement the 2030 Development Agenda. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Pakistan. Fiji, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. My delegation would like to reiterate the importance and significance of the Asia-Pacific Forum on Sustainable Development in supporting member states in the follow-up and review of the 2030 Agenda. It's also an important platform for peer learning and filling in the gaps which exist with member states. This year, the HLP and the SDG Summit will intersect, and it's important that we incorporate important lessons from both events into the relevant APFSD mechanisms to strengthen it. And to this end, my delegation supports the report of the 6th APFSD and its chair's summary. As we approach the end of the first cycle of the 2030 Agenda, we strongly urge member states to consider reviewing the roadmap for implementing the 2030 Agenda for sustainable development in Asia and the Pacific, including its implementation as provided for in Commission Resolution 73/9. This review should consider relevant inputs from the HLPG and the SDG Summit. Fiji will present its VNR this year and will consider guidance provided by the APFSD in the future. And in this regard, to continue to make the APFSD relevant, especially in regional processes, we also urge ESCAP Secretariat to expand its collaboration and partnership with relevant agencies to effectively support member states. I thank you, Chair. Vinaka.
Vinaka, Fiji. India, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair, for giving me the opportunity. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. The 2030 Agenda seeks a rapid transformation across the entire development landscape, which requires inclusive growth, infrastructure and jobs, access to basic services, modern energy, sustainable industrial development and innovation. India has aligned the National Development Agenda with the 2030 Agenda in so much so that our own development agenda mirrors the SDGs. India, home to 1/6 of the world's humanity, has taken concrete steps to address inequality and bridge the gap in developmental gains. Several innovative interventions prioritizing social protection and access to basic services have emerged as key instruments for addressing the inequalities and attaining inclusive growth. India's development motto, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, collective efforts for inclusive growth, finds resonance in the principle which is core to the SDGs, leaving no one behind. I would just like to mention some of the key developmental programs which India has adopted in order to address the issue of SDGs. The National Nutrition Mission, a multi-ministerial mission focusing on making India malnutrition-free, incentivizing institutional childbirth, better healthcare facilities, clean and housing energy, have resulted in substantial improvement in the condition of children, women, and communities living at the base of the pyramid while reducing the developmental gap. Mr. Chair, India has recently launched the world's largest public healthcare program, the Ayushman Bharat, or the National Health Protection Scheme, which provides comprehensive medical treatment to 500 million citizens through medical treatment and medical insurance up to $500,000 Indian rupees. India is also committed to providing housing for all by 2022. Our dedicated focus on sanitation has resulted in rural sanitation coverage of over 98%. As you know, India is a new nation with half the population being under 25 years of age and two-thirds under 35. Our focus is on harnessing this demographic dividend by creating opportunities through skill and entrepreneurship development. India is striving for improving the quality of education, expansion of secondary and tertiary education with a focus on employability of the youth. Closing gender gap is also, as you know, a priority area for us, including the entire region. Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, Save the Girl, Enable her Education program addresses the issue of empowerment of women through awareness generation and promoting education. The Accessible India campaign, which promotes barrier-free access at public spaces and in virtual ecosystems, promotes the rights of persons with disabilities. Lastly, I would like to emphasize on the strong initiative India has taken in the area of financial inclusion. In the course of the past 3 years, over 320 million bank accounts have been opened for the poor and the marginalized who have never been part of a formal banking system. These are linked to a biometric identity system and mobile telephones, which enables efficient delivery of services to the poor so that any pilferage is avoided. Keeping our growth green and sustainable, we have become the world's 6th largest producer of renewable energy. Indian solar power capacity is growing robustly, achieving a capacity of 28 gigawatt in 2018-19. The government has set an ambitious target of 100 gigawatts of solar capacity by 2022. About 100 million households of India who used to rely on conventional methods of energy for primary source of cooking have been shifted towards clean cooking fuel through the Ujjwala Yojana. In a nutshell, India remains committed to promoting empowerment, inclusion, and equality to accelerate the progress towards the 2030 Agenda of Sustainable Development for its entire 1.33 billion population. Thank you.
Thank you, India. Law PDR, you have the floor. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, distinguished delegate, at the outset, allow me to congratulate Your Excellencies on your election as the chair of the Committee of the Whole of the 75th session of the Commissions. Mr. Chairman, this year marked the 4th year that international community is implementing the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. We have noted that international community has been intensifying the implementation of the ambitious goal and target of the SDG in order to attaining the lofty goal of the leaving no one behind. My delegation commend ESCAP for the successful organization of the 6th Asia-Pacific Forum on Sustainable Development, highlight its progress, challenges, and roadmap for further cooperation. The outcome of the forum shall meaningfully contribute to the SDG Summit discussions at the sideline of the upcoming 74th United Nations General Assembly debate in September this year. Mr. Chairman, at the national level, the Lao government is strongly committed to the SDG implementation. The National Steering Committee has been set up and chaired by our Prime Minister to ensure the effective implementation of the SDG in the countries. The government has been working closely with the United Country team in localizing the SDG into our current 8th five-year National Socio-Economic Development Plan, 2016-2020. At the same time, the National SDG 18, entitled Life Safe from UXO, was also adopted, aiming at mitigating the impact of the UXO and improving the life and rural population of the rural population. As a result, around 60% of the indicator of the current plan are linked to the SDG indicator. and the remaining SDG indicator will also integrate it into the next 9 and 10 in SADP. In relation to the Voluntary National Review, VNR, I'd like to take this opportunity to inform the committee that the Laopedia is among the 47 countries successfully presented its VNR report on the progress of the implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development at the high-level political forums in New York in July 2018. To ensure an inclusive, participatory, and transparent VNR process, the National SDG Secretariat organized rounds of consultation with all stakeholders from the government, National Assembly, private sector, academia, civil society, NGO, and UN agency, as well as development partners. My delegation would like to take this opportunity to express our sincere appreciation to the UN ESCAP and UN DESA for its various support in organizing the National SDG Secretariat and SDG Focal Point Workshop on Stakeholder Engagement for the implementation of the SDG, which is held on 15 to 17 May 2019 in Vientiane with a great success. Mr. Chairman, allow me to conclude by expressing our sincere thanks to UN ESCAP and other development partners for their continued support rendered to the Lao government in implementing of the International Development Agenda, as well as to pursue the national development endeavor. I thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, Lao. China, you have the floor.
谢谢主席先生。主席先生，中方感谢秘书处和第6届 APFC 主席刚才所做的报告。中方积极参与，也认真研究了 ESCAP 第6届亚太可持续发展论坛。中方对第6届可持续发展论坛报告中特别提及的强调本地区国家层面实现2030议程的手段不足，呼吁在亚洲及太平洋地区实施2030议程区域路线图中确定的优先领域加强合作。报告还建议使区域路线图下的行动与其他国际次区和国家进程保持一致。中方希望秘书处就如何落实上述建议，向下一届论坛提出行动方案，以便使论坛的讨论不断深入，并形成实实在在的后续行动，以帮助发展中国家丰富落实2030议程的手段，增强区域合作的针对性。主席先生，当前保护主义、单边主义、利己主义严重威胁亚太地区可持续发展合作。面对挑战 ，ESCAP 应高举多边主义旗帜，坚定维护自由开放、包容互惠的发展合作环境，坚定推进区域经济一体化发展合作，坚定推进互联互通。广泛的伙伴关系是 ESCAP 提升影响的重要方式。期待 ESCAP 不断增强与全球次区及各种国别倡议的合作，共同促进2030议程在本地区的落实。主席先生，作为全球发展事业的积极参与者和推动者，中方坚持创新、协调、绿色、开放、共享的发展理念，坚持将2030议程融入国家发展战略和中长期规划。本届年会，中方举办了落实2030行动展览，全面介绍了中方推进落实可持续发展的政策和行动。我们愿将共建“一带一路”国际合作同落实2030议程更好地协调对接，为中国人民创造更加美好生活，也为构建人类命运共同体做出更大贡献。谢谢主席先生。
Thank you, China. Vietnam, you have the floor, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for giving me floor. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, This discussion has been proven fruitful as we share experience on better approaches to advance the 2030 agenda. For Vietnam, we envision sustainable development as long-term people-centered endeavor and have mainstreamed the SDGs in all national plans, strategies, and policies. Furthermore, Vietnam always pays great attention to vulnerable groups, such as the poor, people with disabilities, women, children, and ethnic minorities through a number of policies aimed at promoting social equality to ensure that no one is left behind. Currently, the government of Vietnam is completing the final steps to approve the roadmap in implementing the SDG as well as indicator system for SDG monitoring and evaluation. Also in 2018, we employed the toolkits to help parliamentarians self-evaluate their efficiency and supervise the implementation of the SDG. Mr. Chair, from global and regional perspectives, we share the view that the implementation of the SDG has produced encouraging results in the world as well as in the Asia Pacific. However, recent uncertainties are threatening sustainable employment and livelihood, inclusive and sustainable industrialization, and efficient use of resources. Rapid urbanization is burdening many societies in terms of managing population growth, providing adequate housing and resilient infrastructure, and addressing environmental impacts. To achieve the SDGs, we wish to highlight the following points. First, development policy should strike a balance between economic growth and inclusive growth, between short-term and long-term objectives, while ensuring economic resilience, social inclusiveness, and environmental sustainability. Special focus should be put on sustainable poverty reduction and narrowing the development gap within and between countries. We must also do more on social welfare with due attention to the most vulnerable groups, namely children, women, people with disability, and elderly people. Second, we should focus on quality of education, advanced science and technology, and sustainable agriculture. These are key to provide people with improved access to advanced technologies and decent work in the digital age. Third, it is necessary to promote multi-stakeholder partnerships and connectivities for sustainable and inclusive development at global, interregional, regional, and sub-regional levels. As a responsible and active member of the international community, Vietnam has committed to fully implementing the SDGs, pursuing social and economic inclusion with the aim of eradicating poverty and building an inclusive and sustainable future for all. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, Vietnam. Tomo, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Excellencies, distinguished delegates. Mr. Chair, the last 2 days has proved very interesting in hearing the different levels of progress to advance the 2030 agenda, and in particular to empower people and ensure inclusiveness and equality, essentially to close the gap, reduce poverty, and remove disparities among those in most need. There has been considerable progress with a number of policy and institutional adjustments, legislative compliance reviews, restructuring of the Ministry of Women, Community and Social Development as the national machinery for gender equality and empowerment of women, the focal points for children, community and vulnerable groups, and people living with disability. The Ministry of Women, Community and Development has moved from working with separate community groups to thematic areas of work, being social development, economic empowerment, governance, and leadership, to better position the ministry to respond effectively to the needs of the community. Emphasis has been to include mainstreaming of gender and disability and other cross-cutting issues across all sectoral planning. Through the government's public investment strategy, it requires that in the execution of all development assistance initiatives, gender equality, disability, and social inclusion are covered, which defines engagements with all our development partners. The Cabinet Development Committee has introduced gender analysis as a requirement for any development assistance projects,
representing a positive step in enhancing the role of women and vulnerable groups in all government policies and resource allocation decisions. The steady progress on women's participation in the state and in society serves as a key example of the transformative power of inclusion in building responsive states and effective governance. Adopting a unified, holistic, and coherent approach can break silos, and such an opportunity exists in the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. The inclusion of a target on eliminating all forms of violence against women within Goal 5 on gender equality, as well as Goal 16 on peaceful and inclusive societies, can unify national and international efforts to improve women's security. They also send a clear signal that gender equality matters for both peace and development. Mr. Chair, Samoa's minister during her statement yesterday referred to funding as one of the obstacles standing in the way of effective inclusion at the national level. She referred to the need for quality, increased and flexibility in terms of financial mechanisms if we expect to be able to realize the goals towards effective inclusiveness and equality. Our UN partners should shift towards using financing mechanisms that encourage joint initiatives and cooperation among multilateral agencies and departments, rather than competition and fragmentation, so that efforts are not duplicated, to ensure that there is enhanced coordination and cooperation, synergies are built, and resulting in better utilization of resources and reporting is kept to a minimum. There also needs to be greater coherent UN agency collaboration and engagement and integrated policies. Another challenge faced by Samoa, given its limited resource base and capacity limitations, is the need for capacity building, investments in effective data collection, which should be Pacific SIDS tailored, analysis and data disaggregation, so that data can be linked to comprehensive impact monitoring and evaluation activities. Key ministries are looking to strengthening their roles and partnerships to improve the management of gender-related data, data on vulnerable groups, and relevant linkages to national and international indicators. Efforts must be channeled to better use of resources, giving due recognition to the special development needs of small island developing states, including rational collective efforts to better align the global and regional agendas to our own national development strategies. Only then will we be able to harness the full extent of available resources and ensure that we leave no one behind. Mr. Chair, we look towards the ESCAP multilateral platform and the concerted effort and resources that can be provided to achieve a transformed society and help build resilient and meaningful futures for our people. Thank you.
Thank you, Samoa. Philippines, you have the floor.
Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Philippines is currently preparing the Voluntary National Review Report to be delivered in July 2019. We are happy to note that we have emphasized also in that report our initiatives for Goal 16, which is on anti-corruption, crime prevention, access to information, and participatory governance are some of the initiatives being emphasized in that report. Also, the policy on the localization of the SDGs has been operationalized through the issuance of the DILG, or the Department of Interior and Local Government and National Economic and Development Authority Joint Memorandum Circular on the guidelines on the localization of the Philippine Development Plan for 2017 to 2022, results matrices, and the Sustainable Development Goals. It provides for the formulation of provincial result matrices and indicators and sources of data and information for Tier 1 SDG performance indicators. It likewise institutionalizes the formulation of sustainable RMs as a localization strategy to reinforce linkage of local, regional, national plans and priorities, as well as local planning, investment programming, budgeting, and monitoring. The Philippines agrees that strengthening monitoring systems and data collection, giving emphasis to the importance of data for national planning and localizing the SDGs. A recent effort in the Geospatial Information Management and Analysis Project for Hazards and Risk Assessment in the Philippines, or what we call GeoRisk PH being implemented by the Philippine Institute of the Volcanology and Seismology, or PHIVOLCS. The project aimed to develop a disaster exposure database system which will contain a collection of information on population, infrastructure, housing, production areas, and other tangible human assets located in hazard-prone areas. These exposure information combined with hazard and vulnerability data can help estimate the equivalent or qualitative risk of a community, which provides the basis for developing and implementing the appropriate disaster risk reduction and mitigation measures. The Philippines finds the document in good order and reflects the issues raised by the Philippines during the plenary events. The ESCAP, through its 75th session, can provide guidance to address the gaps and unmet targets of the region and mobilize resources needed to complement national efforts in implementation of the 2030 Agenda. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Philippines. Papua New Guinea, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. Papua New Guinea accepts this report as Papua New Guinea was part of the forum in March 2019. During the 6th Asia-Pacific Forum on Sustainable Development in March 2019, PNG indicated that it will participate in the voluntary national review of the Sustainable Development in 2020. I have the pleasure to once again advise this meeting that Papua New Guinea has formally notified the Economic and Social Commission for Asia-Pacific on its intention to present its voluntary national review in 2020. The government, through the Department of National Planning and Monitoring and Foreign Affairs, in collaboration with the United Nations Country Office, has already begun work on preparing for the VNR. A roadmap and work plan has been developed together with technical bodies to take forward the VNR process. Hence, PNG is looking forward to working closely with Pacific Island Forum Secretariat, SPC, and ESCAP to support the process. The first preparatory workshop for all stakeholders, which will have international speakers and experts from ESCAP and UNDP, is scheduled for mid-June 2019. Thank you.
Thank you, Papua New Guinea. Indonesia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for providing us with the report of the 6th Asia-Pacific Forum on Sustainable Development. We applaud the APFSD's work in supporting the overall achievement of SDGs goals through regional cooperation and collaboration in the Asia and the Pacific. Indeed, we are of the view that a better alignment of our national and regional efforts and actions taken at the global level is very important to identify and overcome our common challenges. At the same time, we need to continue to ensuring multi-stakeholders' involvement and participatory actions to implement related policies and measures. We would also like to reiterate the importance of monitoring, and as discussed at the last APFSD, an auditing body with the role to oversee the implementation of SDGs-related policies so that it is accountable, effective, and inclusive. Indonesia has mainstreamed SDGs into our national development planning and implementation. This year, we will submit our second voluntary national reviews to be delivered in July 2019, and we hope that this step will further help us improve our national efforts. The implementation of SDGs is conducted by involving all relevant stakeholders and at the same time ensuring that the achievement of SDGs is in line with commitment of Leave No One Behind. Indonesia stands ready to work with other countries in Asia and the Pacific, including through promotion of South-South and triangular cooperation to accelerate the achievement of Agenda 2030 that brings mutual benefit for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Indonesia. May I please ask whether there are any other member states who wish to take the floor? Nepal, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. Let me please allow highlighting some experience and achievement of SDGs in the context of Nepal. Nepal is committed and has been taking various measures towards achieving the SDGs by 2030. The Constitution of Nepal provides guiding principle and framework for inclusive socio-economic development, which also guides the implementation of the SDGs. Nepal has already started mainstreaming the SDGs into the national and sub-national planning and budgeting system. We have a SDG coordinating committee, and Nepal formed a various institutional mechanism to foster the implementation process. National Steering Committee that is headed by the Prime Minister shows the priority that is given to the implementation of the SDGs in Nepal. Various other committees and institutional arrangement to implement the SDGs has been formed in the national and sub-national level. Likewise, Nepal published the SDG roadmap, which provides the status in the base year, that is 2015, and provides a roadmap to 2030 with intermediate milestone and a monitoring framework. Nepal also prepared PNR and presented in the 2017 High-Level Political Forum. Likewise, Nepal prepared the SDGs need assessment, costing and financing strategy. The costing of major SDG areas shows that the investment requirement for achieving the targeted set for 2030 is around 48% of the GDP on an average. The annual average investment requirement for the entire SDG period is as 2,025 billion and about 586 billion rupees annual average investment gap that processed. Realizing the importance of other stakeholders in achieving SDG, the government has already bordered the private sector, the cooperative, civil society, development partners in the policy formulation and implementation process regarding the SDGs. With our concerned efforts, we are hopeful of achieving our goals within the stipulated time and realizing our long-term goal of making a prosperous Nepal. The challenges in achieving SDGs in Nepal include inadequate financial resources, capacity constraint, coordinating mechanism, and lack of disaggregated data for monitoring. In this context, our delegation would like to urge ESCAP because we see comparative advantage of ESCAP and through this platform to all development partners and other regional partners as well as international organizations for cooperating to implement 2030 agenda, especially in low-income countries. With this, I stop and thank you, moderator, once again for giving me opportunity to speak on behalf of Nepal and on behalf of our delegation. Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Nepal. Malaysia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Distinguished delegate, ladies and gentlemen, national statistical system in Asia and the Pacific have an ambitious agenda to produce, deliver, and communicate a vast array of official statistics. These statistics should be relevant, trusted, and meet the needs of many users. In 2017, the Commission endorsed the report of the Fifth Committee on Statistics containing our collective vision that by 2030, national statistical systems are able and empowered to lead development of and to deliver innovative, trusted, and timely products and services for urgently needed and evolving statistical requirements of Agenda 2030. In October 2018, members of the Statistical Community of Asia and the Pacific were joined by high-level policymakers at the 6th session of the Committee on Statistics. The committee recognized that a large number of national statistical systems in Asia and Pacific continue to struggle to produce and disseminate a basic range of demographic, economic, social, and environmental statistics. Therefore, member states adopted the Delegation of Navigating Policy with data to leave no one behind. The delegation is a result of a member state acknowledging that the data and statistics require resources, decision, and other support from government as a whole beyond the institution and mandates of the National Statistical System of National Statistical Office. In short, the delegation highlights the importance of the whole of the government support to the national statistical system. The promise of leaving no one behind in the 2030 agenda will not be kept unless statistics is available for all population group and at the local levels. For this reason, the Delegation was explicitly acknowledging the importance of navigating your policy with data to leave no one behind. As the chair of the Committee on Statistics, I am pleased that Secretariat has just launched the SDG Progress Report for the region. They have also developed the Asia-Pacific SDG Gateway as an accessible and user-friendly tool to showcase SDG progress at country, sub-regional and regional level. The Gateway gives a very good yet alarming overview the huge data gap that still exists in our region. Despite a lot of progress over recent years, data is deemed sufficient to measure progress toward the ambitious of 2030 agenda for only 83 of the 232 global SDG indicators. As many as 102 indicators have no data for any countries in our region. This highlights the important role of the National Statistical System and the Commission Committee on Statistics, which we still have work to do. The sixth session of the Commission Committee on Statistics adopted the Declaration Navigating Policy with Data Leave No One Behind, and Malaysia has sponsored the resolution calling for the implementation of the Declaration. Thus, we invite you, representative of your government and the member state of ASEAN Pacific, to endorse the Declaration and support your Committee on Statistics, which I chair, to deliver the commitment member states have already made. We must deliver on the 2030 agenda together. Endorsement of the Declaration signify your support to do so. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Malaysia. And now call upon the UN volunteers.
Thank you very much, Chairman, for this opportunity. Good morning, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. As mandated by the UN Resolution 70/129, the United Nations Volunteer Programme has been supporting the plan of action to help volunteering stakeholders enhance the recognition and integration of volunteerism into the SDGs. Through the concerted efforts of volunteers, government, civil society, the private sector, and the UN, the plan of action seeks to strengthen people's ownership of the 2030 agenda, integrate and mainstream volunteering into national strategies and policies, and better measure the impact of volunteers. Volunteerism supports skills and capacity development and enables people to self-organize. By increasing an individual agency and social capital, volunteerism allows them to take on new roles and responsibility within a community, and in doing so, promote social inclusion. According to the 2018 State of the World Volunteerism Report, the combined efforts of volunteers in the Asia-Pacific region is equivalent to 28.7 million full-time workers. A functional, appropriate, and inclusive volunteer infrastructure can endow individuals with stronger protection and incentives to engage in voluntary action. At a joint ESCAP UNV pre-event to the 6th Asia-Pacific Forum on Sustainable Development earlier this year, representatives from governments involving volunteer-involving organizations and other entities shared experiences and discussed strategies and approaches to create an enabling environment for volunteering in Asia-Pacific and to empower volunteers to complement development programs, develop innovative solutions, and support their reach to marginalized communities. One of the key recommendations from the participants was the need to further mainstreaming of volunteerism into national development strategies and SDG roadmap. The potential for volunteerism to accelerate the implementation of the 2030 agenda in Asia and the Pacific is unparalleled. The large sizable population combined with a strong local ethos and culture of volunteerism means that millions of people can be mobilized to increase people-focused efforts to accelerate the SDGs and ensure no one is left behind. UNV will continue to support member states and other relevant stakeholders to support existing and explore new ways in which citizens can be empowered through volunteering and contribute toward a more inclusive and equal Asia and the Pacific. Thank you very much.
Thank you, UN volunteers. Are there any requests for the floor? I see none. So may I now draw your attention to draft decision 6 as contained in CRP 1. And do I take it that we can recommend draft decision 6 for adoption? It is so decided. Let us move now to agenda item 4B, social development. The documents pertinent to this item are ESCAP/75/3 on the summary of progress in the implementation of Commission resolutions, Resolution 7113, ESCAP/75/4 and the matters calling for action of the Commission, all brought to its attention of the Committee on Social Development on its 5th session, found in section 6, starting on page 8. ESCAP/75/6, the report of the midterm review of the Asian and Pacific Ministerial Declaration on Population and Development, and ESCAP/75/7, the report on the 5th session of the Working Group of the Asian and Pacific Decade of Persons with Disabilities 2013 to 2022. May I now please invite Mr. Chun Tum, Chair of the Committee on Social Development, to brief us on the outcomes of the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Excellency, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. In November, I had the honor to be elected chair of the 5th session of the Commission on Social Development. In this capacity, I am delivering a brief oral statement on the main outcomes and recommendations of the committee. The full report is also available in document ESCAP/CSD/2018/4. The main objective of the 5th session of the Committee on Social Development was to review and discuss strategy for leaving no one behind, and strategy for strengthening social protection in the implementation of 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development in Asia and the Pacific. The committee was also asked to take note of the outcomes of the midterm review of the Asian and the Pacific Ministerial Declaration on Population and Development, as well as the regional framework for action on HIV and AIDS beyond the 2015. Finally, the committee was invited to consider the future program focus of the sub-program on social development for the period 2018-2019. Social protection was especially recognized by the committee as a key tool to ensuring inclusion of the vulnerable groups while contributing to poverty eradication, reduce inequality and economic growth. The committee expressed support for strengthening regional cooperation on social protection. Reference was made to the ILO Social Protection Floor Recommendation number 202 and the ASEAN Declaration on Strengthening Social Protection, including that it was timely for the Asian Pacific region to embark on similar initiative. Mr. Chair, Excellency, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. Considering the above, I would like to conclude this brief summary of the deliberation of the 5th session of the Committee on Social Development by highlighting its 2 recommendations. Recommendation 1. The committee requested the Secretariat to continue and strengthen support to Member States through analysis, knowledge sharing, and technical assistance on the social dimension of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the regional roadmap for implementing the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development in Asia and the Pacific. In particular, in relation to social protection, women's empowerment, population dynamics, and disability inclusion. Recommend number 2. The committee recommended strengthening regional cooperation on social protection and encourage the Secretariat in coordination with relevant United Nations agencies to explore and develop a modality for regional cooperation to support member states in this regard. I understand that the ESCAP Secretariat has already followed up to the second recommendation by requesting member states to nominate social protection experts to the group of experts that will develop an appropriate regional coordination modality on social protection. I am pleased that my own country, Cambodia, is also represented in that group of experts. That first meeting of the group will be held here in Bangkok next month. It is my sincere conviction that the deliberation and final recommendations of the group of experts will be instrumental for broadening coverage of social protection in Asia and the Pacific, and such as effectively contribute to achieving social and sustainable development goals. In conclusion, I would like to take the opportunity to express my sincere appreciation for your active participation during the Committee on Social Development, and also thank the ESCAP team who supported me and Bureau and made it a successful event. Finally, please allow me to thank you again for trust bestowed upon me to serve as chair of the Committee for Social Development at the 8th session, and to submit its conclusion for your consideration here today. I thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your briefing. May I now please invite Mr. Juan Antonio Perez III, Chair of the Midterm Review of the Asian Pacific Declaration on Population and Development, to brief us on the outcomes of that meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Deputy Executive Secretary, Secretary of the Commission, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, I had the honor to be elected Chair of the Midterm Review of the Asian and Pacific Ministerial Declaration on Population and Development from 28 to 30 November last year. In this regard, the member states entrusted me with the responsibility of summarizing the main outcomes and recommendations of the meeting, including the chair's summary as contained in document ESCAP/75/6. I will not take time to go over organizational details. I would rather focus on two key findings and outcomes. My first key finding is the continued relevance of the Program of Action of the International Conference on Population and Development and the policy actions and priority directions of the Asian and Pacific Ministerial Declaration on Population and Development for the achievement of the goals of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Thanks to concerted efforts by countries and civil society organizations, the region has made great progress in addressing the linkages between population and development. Poverty has declined. Access to sexual and reproductive health services has increased. People live longer and healthier lives than ever before. However, much remains to be done. My second key finding relates to the theme of this commission, empowering people and ensuring inclusiveness and equality. Throughout the meeting, participants noted large and often growing inequalities, which meant that many groups in society were at risk of being left behind. They called for a strong focus on identifying these groups and the barriers they face and finding ways to empower them. The barriers faced by young people were highlighted as a particular concern, along with the lack of data and means of monitoring regional progress on the priority actions and policy directions of the ministerial declaration. Meeting participants noted that climate change is a major threat to the achievements in sustainable development. It affects population groups differently and needs to be addressed in a comprehensive manner. The rising incidence of non-communicable diseases requires that we need to focus on new health threats. The growth in the number and share of older persons presents challenges and opportunities, and there is urgent need in the region to develop policies and programs to ensure a healthy, active, and even productive aging process. In particular, the meeting made the following recommendations. Number one, ESCAP and UNFPA, within their respective mandates, to continue to support Commission members and associate members in the implementation of the Asian and Pacific Ministerial Declaration on Population and Development and the Program of Action of the International Conference on Population and Development and the outcomes of its reviews in the context of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development at the national and regional levels. I understand that both ESCAP and UNFPA are supporting member states in this regard, and I am very optimistic that this support will continue in the foreseeable future. When addressing population and development concerns, both organizations complement each other well, and I call on you, the member states, to take advantage of the synergies both organizations have to offer. Number two, ESCAP and UNFPA to further develop a regional monitoring framework to monitor the program of action of the International Conference on Population and Development and the Asian and Pacific Ministerial Declaration on Population and Development as appropriate in the context of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. The framework should be submitted to the Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific for its consideration by 2020. I understand that ESCAP and UNFPA will take this process forward based on existing SDG indicators to avoid duplication and reduce burden on countries. They will also call on you, the member states, to contribute. Soon, ESCAP and UNFPA will ask for nominations from your country to participate in a meeting to develop this framework further. I ask you for your active engagement in this undertaking. I would also like to inform you that the meeting report, including the chair's summary as well as the regional overview and synthesis reports, were submitted as regional inputs to the review and appraisal of the Program of Action of the International Conference on Population and Development to the Commission on Population and Development at its 52nd session in New York last April. The high-level panel on the regional reviews, where I, with chairs from other regional review processes, presented the Asia-Pacific Outcome document, was the highlight of the meeting in New York. informing the global review. The outcome political declaration of the Commission, marking the 25th anniversary of the adoption of the ICPD Program of Action, recognized that the outcome documents of the regional review conferences, such as the Asian and Pacific Ministerial Declaration, provide region-specific guidance on population and development for each region that adopted the particular outcome documents. In closing, I would like to take this opportunity to thank you once again for making our review in November 2018 so successful. This review benefited from constructive engagement in the deliberations, the energy and expertise of civil society, and the excellent collaboration between ESCAP and UNFPA, who worked together seamlessly to join their respective strengths and mandates to deliver as one. Such meetings may serve as a model in other fields in showing how effective regional collaboration can support national action and global dialogue. Finally, please allow me to thank you again for the trust bestowed upon me to serve as chair in the midterm review and to submit its conclusion for your consideration here today. I thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your briefing. The floor is now open for any comments. Pakistan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We would like to commend the Secretariat for organizing regional seminars, consultations, and training activities which have been instrumental in sharing experiences, identifying good practices, and lessons learned. The ideas exchanged between the participants have contributed towards developing policy recommendations to advance gender equality and the empowerment of women and girls in the region. The fifth session of the Committee on Social Development, midterm review of the Asian-Pacific Ministerial Declaration on Population and Development, and fifth session of the Working Group on the Asia and Pacific Decade of Persons with Disabilities have contributed immensely in focusing on the important issues linked to the implementation of 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development in Asia and the Pacific. Mr. Chair, Pakistan remains committed in implementing the Beijing Platform for Action and the Asia and the Pacific Ministerial Declaration on advancing gender equality and women's empowerment. To address gender inequality, the Government of Pakistan has promulgated various laws, policies, and strategies to eliminate all forms of discrimination and end violence against women and girls. At national level, 4 bills, and at provincial level, 9 bills have been passed. Innovation Challenge Fund, focused on supporting female entrepreneurs in Pakistan, has been initiated to promote access to finance for micro, small, and medium-sized businesses by employing technology-enabled solutions. We have instituted a revised social protection policy framework to focus our efforts for a harmonized approach for all Pakistanis, leaving no one behind. Our National Poverty Alleviation Program, SDGs, meaning compassion, has been launched this year to expand social protection, safety nets, and support human capital development throughout the country. This program complements and expands on the ongoing robust social protection Benazir income support program for poor women. Reductions in stunting and malnutrition have taken place over the period 2013-2018 by 6 and 9 percentage points respectively. Recognizing the persistent challenge, greater focus and allocation of resources is being made. The prevalence of skilled birth attendance has improved by 17 percentage points, while neonatal mortality rate has fallen by 10 percentage points during the same period. The Lady Health Workers Program, with its grassroots presence, has been instrumental in achieving this improvement. A new universal health coverage initiative, the Sehat Sahulat Program, has been launched this year to provide health insurance coverage for those in need. Health sector reforms are underway, entailing a centralized integrated disease surveillance system and strong inter-provincial information sharing mechanism. We are also actively building partnerships, including at the bilateral level, as well as through South-South and triangular cooperation to jointly work towards achieving SDGs. Commitment to poverty alleviation remains a key focus of the government of Pakistan. Progress has been made even if challenges persist. Over the last 10 years, poverty headcount has fallen by 26% and multidimensional poverty decreased by 16 percentage points. Mr. Chairman, our resolve and commitment to eliminate poverty is firm. The size of assistance for the lowest strata has been enhanced. The National Socio-Economic Registry is being updated to target the poor more effectively and ensure that no one is left behind. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Pakistan. Bangladesh, you have the floor.
Mr. Chair, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Building better life and caring society is the vision of the social development initiatives of Bangladesh. In order to reduce inequality in the society, the nation gives priority to poverty reduction and empowerment of disadvantaged segments, especially for women, and rehabilitation of the marginalized people, such as persons with disabilities, destitute, poor, and helpless. Besides, life cycle approach for aging, investment in young people, and the social safety net program became the key concerns of the government. Bangladesh has instituted a large number of social security programs to help the poor, with particular attention to the extreme poor through adopting national social security strategies and an action plan. The government has increasing budget allocation to social protection to reduce extreme poverty. Mr. Chair, Bangladesh has achieved success greatly in reducing gender inequalities. Gender parity in primary and secondary education has improved. However, dropout rate at secondary level is a challenge. Promoting women entrepreneurship is also a mentionable initiative in the country. Labor force participation by female has increased, but still there is a wide gap between male and female. Bangladesh achieved the 7th position out of 144 countries in the political empowerment score rank of the Global Gender Gap Subindex. We are aware that the ESCAP Secretariat is currently leading the 25-year review of the Beijing Platform for Action in the Asia-Pacific region. Bangladesh is preparing herself to participate actively in the high-level meeting on Beijing Plus 25 in November of this year. Bangladesh attaches its utmost importance on promoting disability-inclusive development. We believe that investing in persons with disabilities and responding to their needs will ultimately yield returns in the society. We appreciate the spirits and contents of the Indian strategy and the Beijing action plan, considering their importance to understand how disability mainstreaming in development can contribute the implementation of Agenda 2030. Distinguished delegates, international migration is another mega trend in Bangladesh, owing to its size, complexity, scale, and impact. The economy of Bangladesh is heavily contributed by the remittance of migrant workers. Migrants are also vulnerable to core discrimination and exploitation. The human rights of the migration workers, including the sexual and reproductive health, should be recognized in the destination countries. Mr. Chair, to address the SDGs, an international conference for population development program of action, the government of Bangladesh is committed to monitor the progress in terms of population dynamics. In this regard, a task team has been formed last year, and we have submitted our mid-review report that was covered from 2013 to 2017 to ESCAP. Mr. Chair, we look forward to continuing to work closely with the Commission in promoting gender equality and supporting all vulnerable groups to ensure no one is left behind. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bangladesh. India, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As we mark the 25th anniversary of the United Nations International Conference on Population and Development, India reaffirms its commitment to the consensus in Cairo, interlinking diverse aspects of population, development, and human rights with the core principle of leaving no one behind. Economic and social development, enhanced family planning services, better health and education facilities for women have resulted in a rapid decline in the population growth rate in India. Substantial reduction in maternal and infant mortality rate have been achieved through incentivizing institutional childbirth, better pre- and postnatal health care, and family planning. Life expectancy at birth has seen an improvement from 49.7 to 68.3. Total fertility rate has come down to 2.3, with 11 states being below 2.1. Extensive engagement of the community health workers in distributing contraceptives to beneficiaries has improved access. The aim is to ensure that 74% of the demand for modern contraceptives is met by 2020. Mr. Chair, India's efforts in improving universal immunization, improved sanitation, access to clean water, improved nutrition, healthy lifestyles, and education has significantly improved our health index and our rankings in the SDG index. India is among the first countries to launch a comprehensive program for its 250 million adolescent population, focusing on reproductive and menstrual health management, nutrition, mental health, and substance abuse. With 7,298 adolescent family health clinics spread across the country. The schemes for educational empowerment of socially backward and marginalized sections include various scholarship schemes, schemes related to construction of educational hostels, coaching and skill development programs, providing loans and microcredit at concessional rates, and improving the entrepreneurial ecosystem for the base of the pyramid communities. There are also schemes of social defense, mainly for senior citizens and victims of substance abuse and alcoholism. Mr. Chair, the vision is to have an inclusive society in which equal opportunities and access is provided for growth and development of persons with disabilities to lead productive, safe, and dignified lives. The Right of Persons with Disabilities Act, which was passed in the year 2016, mandates the government to ensure that the persons with disabilities enjoy their rights equally with others. The Government of India has also launched the Accessible India campaign with the aim to make a barrier-free environment for persons with disabilities. The government is also implementing several schemes for providing modern aids and assistance devices to persons with disabilities. The goal is to ensure that the growth and development paradigm is disable inclusive. During the last 4 years, a substantial improvement has been made in terms of distribution of devices for empowering and enabling mobility, which is valued up to $120 million, benefiting about 1 million persons with disabilities, organized at more than 7,000 camps spread across the country. I would like to reiterate here that considering the requirement of the reliable disability disaggregated data across the country and across the nations in the ESCAP, the National Statistical Commission of India has included disability as one of the major subject matters of the National Sample Survey in line with Goal 8 of the Incheon strategy. Further, to create a scientific database for persons with disabilities, the government has undertaken implementation of Unique Disability ID project, which covers 500 districts and 1.63 million ID cards have been so far generated. This real-time data under the Unique Disability ID project is expected to improve program implementation for inclusive development of the disabled persons. At the end, again, I would like to reiterate that India is deeply committed to partnership with ESCAP within the South-South cooperation and triangular cooperation in reducing inequality in the region and increasing social, economic, and financial inclusion of all sections through multifarious interventions and cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you, India. Philippines, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair and distinguished delegates, with the enactment and implementation of the Responsible Parenthood and Reproductive Health Law in 2012, the Philippines has indeed achieved remarkable progress at the outcome level. Data yielded by the National Demographic and Health Survey, downward trend in fertility has continued from a total fertility rate of 3 in 2013 to 2.7 in 2017. Parallel to the foregoing, births among adolescents aged 15 to 19 has gone down from 57 births over 1,000 women in 2013 to 47 in 2017. Nonetheless, much is to be done to sustain the efforts in creating an enabling environment to promote sexual and reproductive health and rights, and reduce unmet need for family planning among a third of married women in the country. Unmet need for family planning remains highest among adolescents at 28% in 2017. Indeed, the standing gap calls for further improvements in the availability, accessibility, and delivery of sexual and reproductive health and rights information and services. Greater investments and efforts are necessary to finally put in place the comprehensive sexuality education in school and out of school within this decade. Truly, the Philippines is committed to Asian and Pacific Ministerial Declaration of 2013 and reaffirmed the need to institutionalize a monitoring framework by 2020. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Philippines. China, you have the floor.
谢谢主席先生。主席先生，社会发展事业对确保人人享有发展成果，不让一个人掉队至关重要。一年来 ，ESCAP 在妇女赋权、残疾人事业、人口、减贫等领域开展了大量工作，为亚太地区社会事业的发展、政策对话和经验交流提供了重要支撑。 为增强发展中国家社会发展能力提供了务实支持，取得了可喜成就。我们对秘书处的努力和成员国在此方面开展的合作表示满意。中方期待 ESCAP 充分发挥在区域社会发展方面的独特号召力和专业优势，动员各种资源。 深化区域面临的社会发展问题研究和务实合作。主席先生，中国始终坚持以人民为中心，坚持让改革发展成果更多的、更公平的惠及全体人民。过去40年，中国有7亿多人口摆脱绝对贫困。 明年，中国将实现所有剩余农村贫困人口脱贫，这将是对本地区落实2030议程、提升本地区社会事业发展整体水平的重要贡献。与此同时，中国还不断加大公共财政投入，多渠道惠及社会资源，强化社会保障体系建设。 增进均等教育、健康就业机会，强化弱势群体合法权益的保护。中国的社会发展事业正日益成为国家总体发展战略的核心支撑。主席先生，中国一直通过预算外专款等方式支持 ESCAP 开展社会发展领域的区域合作。 就落实第4届妇女大会北京宣言，落实促进残疾人包容发展2017年北京宣言行动计划等，开展了务实项目。中方学术机构还与 ESCAP 秘书处开展了应对老龄化问题的合作研究和能力建设。中方愿进一步拓展双方的合作领域。 深化务实合作内容，为促进平等、包容、共同发展作出贡献。谢谢。
Thank you, China. May I ask if there are any other member states who wish to take the floor? Otherwise, may I now draw your attention to draft decisions 7 and 8 as contained in CRP 1. Do I take it that we recommend draft decisions 7 and 8 for adoption? It is so decided. For the matters calling for action by the Commission of the Committee on Social Development on its 5th session, may I take it that the meeting can recommend their endorsement? It is so decided. Let us move now to agenda item 4C, Environment and Development. The documents pertinent to this item are ESCAP/75/3 on the summary of progress in the implementation of Commission resolutions, Resolution 73/5 and 73/9. ESCAP/75/4 and the matters calling for action of the Commission, all brought to its attention of the Committee on Environment and Development on its 5th session, found in section 5, starting on page 7. ESCAP/75/8, the report of the Governing Council of the Centre for Sustainable Agricultural Mechanization on its 14th session. ESCAP/75/9, entitled Taking Action to Combat Climate Change and Its Impacts, How Empowerment Leads to Sustainable Outcomes. And ESCAP/75/INF/1, which contains the reports of the Coordinating Committee for Geoscience Programs in East and Southeast Asia and the Mekong River Commission. May I please invite Mr. Sonam Wangdi, Chair of the Committee on Environment and Development, to brief us on the outcomes of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Honourable Chair, fellow members on the dais, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, officials of ESCAP, ladies and gentlemen. It was my great honor to have served as chair of the 5th session of the Committee on Environment and Development, which was held in Bangkok, Thailand from November 21 to 23rd, 2018. I'm pleased to mention that Ms. Dina Gail L. Maharajan of Philippines and Mr. Oleg Shamanov of the Russian Federation served admirably as vice chairs. It is my pleasure to present a summary of the report of the committee meeting. The committee was convened to review current and emerging environmental trends and challenges in the region, to highlight the benefits of environment action, and to discuss ways to accelerate progress on the environmental dimension of 2030 agenda in the region, including through enhanced regional cooperation and innovative solutions. We appreciated the work carried out by the Secretariat in the area of environment and development since the 4th session of the committee, and for building on outcomes of the 7th Ministerial Conference on Environment and Development, the 5th Asia-Pacific Forum on Sustainable Development. Asia and the Pacific has experienced rapid urbanization, industrialization, and robust economic growth. At the same time, the region is the most resource-intensive in the world and faces serious environmental challenges as a direct consequence of unsustainable growth. The committee recognized increasing environmental impacts, such as transborder impacts from marine air and water pollution and plastic waste, land degradation and loss of biodiversity, unsustainable consumption of natural resources, declining ocean health, and climate-induced disaster, especially in coastal lowland cities and low-elevation coastal settlements. Such challenges warrant urgent actions to reduce the adverse impacts on the environment from unsustainable economic growth, as well as from unplanned rapid urbanization, and to improve resource and environmental management. The committee recognized the benefits can be realized from strengthening regional and sub-regional cooperation in several areas, including through mainstreaming of circular economy and waste recovery approaches, such as improved solid waste and wastewater management, the promotion of ecosystem-based adaptation and organic agriculture practices, and nature-based solutions. To further facilitate opportunities for enhanced regional cooperation for application of important tools and good practices such as sustainable consumption and production, industrial symbiosis, circular economy and resource efficiency, and ecosystem, the committee put forward the suggestion to create a platform for resource efficiency. The need to accelerate progress with respect to environmental dimension of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development in Asia and the Pacific was highlighted. The committee encouraged ESCAP and other development partners to extend further collaboration and technical support to translate policies into action, to build capacities in evidence-based decision-making on natural resources, to share good practices and learning, to develop and utilize environmentally friendly technologies, and to access new and innovative forms of financing to build capacity at local level of all stakeholders. The committee also highlighted the need to encourage engagement of a wider range of stakeholders to address environmental challenges. We look forward to the sub-program on environment and development continuing to support countries' efforts to achieve the objectives in the Ministerial Declaration on Environment and Development for Asia and the Pacific 2017, as well as the Regional Roadmap for implementing the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development in Asia and the Pacific. It is important that the United Nations, development partners, and others support national strategies and means of implementation to achieve the potential benefits from environmental actions. I look forward to the endorsement of the report of the 5th Committee on Environment and Development by the 75th session of the Commission, and to the implementation of the recommendations, including the establishment of a regional platform on resource efficiency. Finally, as chair of the 5th Committee on Environment and Development, I would like to once again thank all distinguished delegates who participated in the substantive discussions and deliberations of the successful session. I thank you, Honourable Chair.
Thank you, sir, for your briefing. May I now please invite Mr. Sarul Chan, Chair of the Governing Council of the Centre for Sustainable Agricultural Mechanization, to brief us on the outcomes of that meeting.
Good morning, Mr. Chairperson, Excellency, distinguished delegate, ladies and gentlemen. It is my great honor to come before the Commission today in my capacity as chair of the 14th session of the Governing Council of the Center for Sustainable Agricultural Mechanization, CSAM. CSAM is one of the regional institutions of ESCAP based in Beijing. Its vision is to achieve production gain, improve rural livelihood, and poverty alleviation through sustainable agricultural mechanization for a more resilient, inclusive, and sustainable Asia and the Pacific. The Governing Council noted with appreciation that the work of the Center is being implemented in the field, engaging engineers as well as other key stakeholders such as policymakers, researchers, and academicians, manufacturers, distributors, and service providers. The Governing Council commended CSAM for its range of activity as an active regional institution of ESCAP and for successfully playing the role of a regional platform for countries in a region with vast diversity while mobilizing additional resources, including in-kind contribution. The Government Council recommends that the Center make effort to address the following areas. First, providing technical assistance for strengthening agricultural machinery testing facility. Second, supporting all segments of the value chain, including reducing production costs and post-harvest losses. Third, promoting public-private partnership and engagement of the private sector in testing, research and development of agricultural machinery. Fourth, facilitating engagement of youth and promotion of sustainable agricultural mechanization. Fifth, enabling mechanization solutions for the subsector of livestock, fishery, and forestry, as well as promoting precision agriculture. And sixth, undertaking collaboration with relevant partners to leverage synergies in areas such as building resilience to climate change and promoting integrated straw management. The Council endorsed the Center Work Plan and Financial Status Report for 2018, as well as its proposed work plan for 2019. The Governing Council invites all ESCAP members and associate members to explore opportunity to collaborate with CSAM and other development partners for promoting sustained agricultural mechanization at the national and regional level toward achieving related sustainable development goals. The Governing Council encourages CSAM to enhance efforts to increase its visibility through various channels. In conclusion, Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to underscore that CSAM is entirely funded through the extra budgetary resources of ESCAP. However, it has been receiving valuable financial and in-kind support from its host country, China, as well as other countries. On behalf of the Governing Council, I urge all ESCAP members and associated members to support the important work of the CSAM by continuing and further enhancing their voluntary contribution to the Center. Countries will have the opportunity tomorrow to demonstrate their support during the discussion under Agenda Item 6C. Thank you all for your attention.
Thank you, sir, for briefing us. The floor is now open for any comments. Pakistan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Asia-Pacific region is confronted with acute and multiple environmental challenges causing extreme and widespread devastation, putting an enormous burden on development capabilities and impeding the achievement of sustainable development. Implementation of SDG 13 requires innovation, technology, and financial resources that are beyond the capacity of developing countries, which are more exposed to and less capable of coping with climate risks. Developed countries, international development partners, and the wider global community have to step up cooperation with the environmentally vulnerable countries in terms of provision of finances and capacity building for the achievement of the 2030 Development Agenda. Given Pakistan's extreme vulnerability to climate change, adaptation and climate resilient development remains our essential priority. Our national climate change policy provides the requisite policy framework and impetus for the integration of climate-friendly policies in our national economic and development planning. We are working on shifting towards climate-resilient agriculture, and our mitigation efforts cover transport, town planning, and agriculture with priority awarded to energy. In 2018, Pakistan's billion tree tsunami became the first entity under the Global Bond Challenge to meet the pledge of restoring 3.48 million hectares of forests. This project created 500,000 green jobs, revived forest biodiversity, engaged indigenous communities, and energized our youth to become custodians of a green future. Mr. Chair, we are willing to learn from the experience of other countries, share ideas, and explore possibilities of concrete institutional cooperation to optimize opportunities and explore avenues of mutual benefit while addressing the challenges of climate change. Thank you.
Thank you, Pakistan. Bangladesh, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. In the wake of the 21st century, climate change has emerged as one of the key determinant factors of national economies and lives of the billions on Earth. My country, Bangladesh, is one of the most vulnerable countries exposed to the adverse impact of climate change. Due to deforestation, unsustainable agricultural practices, unplanned urban growth, and salinity intrusion resulted by the rise of the level of seawater, Bangladesh has been facing land erosion, degradation of agro-lands, mass displacement, degradation of terrestrial and aquatic ecosystems, which are posing unforeseen consequences on the environmental sustainability, food security, and overall economic progress of the country. Excellencies, Bangladesh has an extraordinarily aspiring story of economic success to share with the world. Over the past few decades, the economy of the country has recorded remarkable performance. We have outperformed most of the developing countries in terms of our achievements in the social indicators. We have already kicked off our journey towards an upper middle income country by 2030 and a developed one by 2041. However, all these achievements and future progress now are facing formidable challenges due to climate change. Ladies and gentlemen, Bangladesh is keen to address these environmental issues by undertaking adequate measures through the institutional and policy reforms. We have brought about plenty of changes in the rules and regulations pertaining to biodiversity conservation, carbon emission, and energy consumption. The government has adopted an inclusive approach and incorporated the environmental issues in all the development policies and efforts. We are ready to contribute to the global efforts for reduction of greenhouse gases as decided in Bali at COP13 in 2007. Given the agenda of the meeting on environment and development of ESCAP, Bangladesh reaffirms the need for assistance from developed countries to expedite the institutional reforms in the developing countries of Asia-Pacific region. Mr. Chair, vulnerability of the developing countries like Bangladesh predominantly stems from the resource constraints. The international community, particularly development partners, have obligations to support and finance our efforts to climate-resilient development. Both adaptation and mitigation in Bangladesh will need substantial resources and transfer of technology, which must be firm political commitment of the developed world and also of those large developing countries which are in a position to help us in this regard. Mr. Chair, in this global platform, we would like to assure the international community that the resources and expertise rendered to our efforts regarding the environmental cause will make a huge difference in the lives of the millions of vulnerable people exposed to the catastrophic proportion of climate change. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you, Bangladesh. Japan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. Our delegation would like to express our sincere appreciation to the ESCAP Secretary's efforts on the environment and the development. Resource efficiency and 3 Rs, reduce, reuse, and recycle, have been an important agenda in the region for a long time. Government of Japan has been co-organizing 3R Regional Forum in Asia and the Pacific with UN Center for Regional Development, UNCRD, and host countries every year since 2009 in order to improve the waste management, promote 3Rs, and increase the resource efficiency in the region. In March this year, more than 550 participants from around 40 countries participated in its 9th forum, which was hosted by the government of Thailand, and the forum successfully adopted Bangkok 3R Declaration. In this regard, the suggestion to create a new platform for resource efficiency should be carefully considered in consult with member states so that ESCAP can continue to play its important role, avoiding any duplication, but ensuring its complementarity with other existing relevant initiatives. We strongly believe that such platforms should avoid any duplication with the 3R Regional Forum, but complement it. Mr. Chair, Japan also recognizes that the marine plastic is an important issue for sustainable growth since it can cause negative impacts not only on the marine ecosystem but also on tourism, fishery, livelihoods linked to the marine, and even economy. Therefore, waste management, recovery of marine litters, innovation for material substitution, and capacity building for developing countries should be promoted in the region and globally. We put importance on the marine plastic issue as a priority agenda for G20 Osaka Summit this year. Finally, Japan continues to cooperate with UNTAM's activity for testing codes, which is led by CSAM. Thank you.
Thank you, Japan. Thailand, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. The rapid growth in economic development and resource use with poor management has brought about negative impact on natural resources and the environment of the region. It is indeed a duty of all nations to mainstream environmental dimension into development agenda. In response to progress made in the implementation of the Commission's resolutions 73/5 and 73/9, we have witnessed the number of activities that have been implemented to promote the conservation and sustainable use of the ocean in Asia and the Pacific in line with SDG 14. Although several regional cooperation and partnerships has been implemented to realize the regional roadmap for implementing the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development in Asia and the Pacific, more action are still needed to be done, and we would like to encourage the Secretariat to continue its support to help member countries in implementing these solutions. In sharing our practices in implementing SDG 14, Thailand has put efforts in tackling waste problem by integrating actions with full participation of all stakeholders, especially with communities, private and corporate sectors. We particularly place importance on the management of plastic waste and marine litter. Together with global community, Thailand pledged its voluntary commitments to save our oceans at the UN Ocean Conference in New York in 2017. Last year, we joined UNEP's Clean Seas campaign to clean up the world ocean and to forge global commitment against marine litter and plastic pollution. This year, we launched the 20-year roadmap for plastic waste management to accelerate the management of plastic waste at source and to promote the transition of circular economy. The roadmap aims at banning single-use plastic bags and water bottle sealing caps by 2022 and ban single-use plastic caps and straws by 2025. As we take the role of ASEAN Chair this year, we hosted the special ASEAN ministerial meeting on marine debris on the 5th of March. The most important outcome of the meeting is the ASEAN Framework of Action on Marine Debris, a new regional policy framework document to address marine debris pollution, with research and innovation among its priority areas. We wish that these actions reflect our attempt in driving the 2030 global agenda through a broader public participation. We also wish that our experiences and practices could be useful for other countries in the region. Ladies and gentlemen, the Fifth Committee on Environment and Development put forward for consideration by the Commission the suggestion to create a platform for resource efficiency in the region. We would like to suggest that the regional platform should set concrete objectives, outcomes, and activities, and should avoid overlapping with existing mechanisms, including the Asia-Pacific Roundtable for Sustainable Consumption and Production. The cooperation and coordination with other platforms should also be strengthened. We also hope that with support of ESCAP Secretariat, in cooperation with the UN agencies and relevant partners, the platform which enhance capacity building, support information and data sharing, create mechanism for exchange of knowledge and good practices, and integrated life cycle, as well as eco-innovative solution in order to building up a region full of potentials for resource efficiency and circular economy. Threats on climate change and urban air pollution have become major environmental problems in Thailand, ASEAN, and the Asia-Pacific. Taking action in combat climate change and its impact needs engagement of all parties, all society, and at all levels. Thailand has incorporated mitigation measures on climate change in various national plans and action at local level. This is done through training of local authorities to integrate climate change issues into provincial development plans. Thailand hopes that ESCAP will continue to provide forums and platforms for sharing experiences and information on empowering local community in the region in order to strengthen their participation in tackling climate change at national level. Lastly, we hope that ESCAP and the committee will continue to be the primary forum to engage all stakeholders and to strengthen partnerships to address regional environmental challenges, to find common solutions for the benefit of all members. Also, we would like to thank ESCAP for continually provide technical support to CCOP and MRC work. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Thailand. Fiji, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. My delegation would like to thank the Secretariat, in particular the Environment and Development Division, for the updates provided in the implementation of Commission resolutions. With respect to Resolution 73/5, strengthening Asia-Pacific support for the United Nations Conference to support the implementation of Sustainable Development Goal 14, We urge the Secretariat to keep the momentum going. The Asia-Pacific Day for the Ocean is a very important event. That, as well as creating new partnerships and network, it will add to the impressive network that we already have. Next year, the second United Nations High-Level Conference on Oceans will convene in Portugal, and in this regard, my delegation would like to urge the Secretariat to facilitate discussions to gather regional inputs for this conference. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the health of the ocean is a pressing issue for the region, in particular for small island developing states. And as the President of Nauru and Chair of the Pacific Island Forum stated in his remarks during the opening ceremony, the ocean defines the Pacific. Vinaka, Chair.
Thank you, Fiji. Russian Federation, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And good morning to all the delegates. I'll now switch to my native language. Российская делегация выступает за последовательное наращивание природоохранного сотрудничества на площадке ESCAP. Экологическая составляющая является одним из краеугольных камней концепции устойчивого развития и полноценного выполнения повестки Дня 2030. Мы с удовлетворением отмечаем положительную динамику регионального сотрудничества по природоохранной проблематике в русле подходов, закрепленных в Декларации министров по окружающей среде и развитию в Азиатско-Тихоокеанском регионе 2017 года. Поддерживаем усилия ESCAP по гармонизации подходов стран-членов к формированию основ природоохранной политики на региональном и субрегиональном уровнях. Расширению обмена наиболее успешными наработками в области охраны окружающей среды и устойчивого управления природными ресурсами. В контексте предстоящего в 2020 году перехода на одногодичный бюджетный цикл работы системы ООН считаем принципиально важным сохранение в числе программных приоритетов подпрограммы по окружающей среде и таких ее стратегических направлений, как устойчивое природопользование, сохранение биоразнообразия, устойчивая урбанистика, устойчивое производство и потребление и повышение вклада ESCAP в глобальные усилия по борьбе с изменением климата. Одно из практически значимых направлений работы – субрегиональное сотрудничество по борьбе с негативными последствиями антропогенного воздействия на окружающую среду. Важным событием на этом направлении стал запуск сформированного под эгидой НИАСПЕК партнерство стран Северо-Восточной Азии «Чистый воздух». Поддерживаем его фокусировку на снижение трансграничного загрязнения воздуха и рассчитываем, что позитивные наработки партнерства могут быть востребованы в масштабах всего региона. И в связи с этим, как соавторы резолюции, призывающие регион к действиям и развитию инициатив по повышению качества атмосферного воздуха, призываем поддержать соответствующую резолюцию нынешней сессии. Важный инструмент участия Российской Федерации в реализации повестки дня ESCAP в области окружающей среды и развития – выполнение проектов техсодействия за счет российского добровольного взноса в бюджет ESCAP. В частности, в настоящее время под эгидой субрегионального отделения ESCAP для Восточной и Северо-Восточной Азии запущен проект укрепления субрегионального сотрудничества посредством обмена знаниями по устойчивому управлению морскими охраняемыми районами. Готовится к запуску проект, касающийся Парижского соглашения по климату. Господин председатель, в завершение хотели бы подчеркнуть значение Азиатско-Тихоокеанского форума по устойчивому развитию в обеспечении регионального вклада в деятельность политического форума высокого уровня по устойчивому развитию. Считаем целесообразным и дальше следовать этим курсам, совершенствовать модальности организации работы форума, повышать его коэффициент полезного действия и помощи странам-членам в углубленной экспертной оценке хода реализации ВТР всего комплекса показателей ЦУР. Благодарю за внимание.
Thank you, Russian Federation. Bhutan, you have the floor.
Mr. Chair, Bhutan has always been at the forefront of pursuing various climate-smart and environmentally friendly policies and have successfully put in place a number of policies, regulation, strategies, and action plans. Despite all these interventions, Bhutan has not been spared from the impacts of climate change. Bhutan's mountainous terrain and rapid variation in agroecological zone renders it very vulnerable. There are increasing incidences of forest fires, drying up of water sources, outbreak of crop diseases, windstorms, erratic and high-intensity rainfalls. Climate change and its adverse effect have direct impact on the livelihood of people and their human rights. While Bhutan's commitment to global compact on environment and climate change remains steadfast, it is a concern that global actions are inadequate to prevent further rise in global temperature. Related to climate change are the associated risks of natural disasters. It is common knowledge that small developing countries have the least capacity to adapt, and this has a direct bearing on sustainable development of countries like Bhutan. In this context, we welcome the creation of green finances such as the Green Climate Fund Finance. However, we would like to urge that access to green finances be made easier for LDCs and especially for vulnerable countries like Bhutan. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Bhutan. China, you have the floor.
谢谢主席先生。主席先生，中国重视环境保护，正在开展应对土地、空气、水污染的3大战役，以增进美丽中国建设。我们愿与 ESCAP 成员加强环境领域合作。今年，我们与 ESCAP 环境司共同开展了环境友好城镇化专项合作，希望秘书处积极发挥中介作用，促进城镇化过程中环境友好最佳实践推广和经验分享。主席先生，我要特别感谢 CSAM 理事会主席刚才对 CSAM 过去1年工作的报告。亚太地区在粮食安全和农村社会经济发展方面仍然面临诸多挑战，其中包括农村劳动力的不断减少、农业产业链条的不完善、自然资源的退化，以及气候变化造成的自然灾害等。面对挑战，联合国可持续农业机械化中心作为 ESCAP 的附属机构，致力于将2030可持续发展议程与亚太经社会各成员经济社会发展优先发展目标紧密结合，开展了大量卓有成效的工作。中方对此高度评价。作为东道国，中国政府为 CSAM 的业务开展提供了必要的财政和实务专项支持。在刚刚结束的第2届“一带一路”国际合作高峰论坛期间，中国国家市场监管总局会同意大利农业机械化委员会以及中国农业农村部分别与 ESCAP 签署了关于 CSAM 的2项合作文件。我们相信，在这个合作文件的框架下，双方的合作将更加深入顺畅。谢谢主席先生。
Thank you, China. May I ask if there are any other member states who wish to take the floor? Otherwise, I'd like to thank both chairs here again for the briefing. Now, I'm sorry. May I call upon Mekong River Commission for their intervention, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, distinguished delegate, ladies and gentlemen. The Mekong River Commission continues to implement its river basin management function, including river monitoring, flood forecasting, basin-wide planning, and coordinating implementation of water utilization procedure for data sharing, consultation on major infrastructure projects on the mainstream, water quality monitoring, and maintenance of river flows. One of the key highlights is the 6-month prior consultation process on the proposed Pak Lai hydropower project, which commenced in August 2018, involving transparent sharing of detailed information from the projects to the public's independent assessment by experts of the MRC Secretariat, engaging with various stakeholders at the local, national, and regional level. The process is expected to result in an agreed statement by the MRC Joint Committee on measures to avoid, minimize, and mitigate adverse transboundary impact of the project and preparation of a joint action plan to further engage in information sharing and joint monitoring. The year 2018 also marked the midpoint in the implementation of the MRC Strategic Plan 2016-2020, and thereby saw a number of major reviews carried out by the MRC. The process of the strategic plan implementation itself, as well as decentralization of basin monitoring to member countries. The independent midterm review wrote in their report, there have been some impressive achievements in the first half of the strategic plan period in terms of output produced, including but not limited to the Council study, basin-wide fishery management and development strategy, Mekong climate change adaptation strategy and action plan, improvement in implementing the prior consultation process with the joint committee statement and joint action plan for Pak Bang, transboundary environmental impact assessment guideline, and the update of the preliminary design guidance for mainstream hydropower project. The independent operational review added significant achievement of the MRC in recent years, have increased the reputation and relevance of the organization considerably, as well as consolidating its standing as one of the premier river basin commission worldwide. Finally, the MRC also has initiated work with a number of United Nations organizations, including UN ESCAP, UN Development Program, UN Office for Project Services, and UN Environment. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
I thank the representative of Mekong River Commission, and again I thank the two chairs here for briefing us. So may I now draw your attention to draft decisions 9 and 10 as contained in CRP 1. Do I take it that we can recommend draft decisions 9 and 10 for adoption? It is so decided. For the matters calling for action by the Commission or brought to its attention of the Committee on Environment and Development on its 5th session, may I take it that the meeting can recommend their endorsement? It is so decided. Let us move now to agenda item 4D, disaster risk reduction. The documents pertinent to this item are ESCAP/75/3, entitled Summary of Progress in the Implementation of Commission Resolutions, Resolution 73/7. ESCAP/75/10, the reports of the Ministerial Conference on Space Applications for Sustainable Development in Asia and the Pacific on its third session in Addendum 1, the Ministerial Declaration on Space Applications for Sustainable Development in Asia and the Pacific, and Addendum 2, the Asia-Pacific Plan of Action on Space Applications for Sustainable Development 2018 to 2030. Additional documents for this agenda item are ESCAP/75/11, the report of the Governing Council of the Asian and Pacific Center for the Development of Disaster Information Management on its third session. ESCAP/75/12, entitled Addressing Disaster Resilience Through Digital and Geospatial Innovations. ESCAP/75/34, a note verbal dated 23rd of April 2019 from the Embassy of Mongolia, addressed to the Secretariat of the Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific. And lastly, ESCAP/75/INF/1, which contains the reports of the Typhoon Committee and the panel on tropical cyclones. May I please now invite Mr. Thomas Jamaluddin, Vice Chair of the Ministerial Conference on Space Applications for Sustainable Development in Asia and the Pacific, to brief us on the conference.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. The past few decades have seen tremendous advance in technology that provide immense opportunity to tackle some of the most pressing challenges we face today. Greater computing capacity and digital connectivity is opening doors for new ways to generate and process large volume of data, leading to new insights. Furthermore, ever more accessible geospatial information provides increasing cost-effective ways for supporting sustainable development. Space application and innovation have the potential to boost progress on sustainable development goals by leveraging space-based data and deepening regional partnership. Yet many countries in the region still face challenges in terms of access, coordination, and the use of geospatial information, particularly those with special needs. With that in mind, it's my honor to appear here today in my capacity as Vice Chair of the Third Ministerial Conference on Space Application for Sustainable Development in Asia and Pacific, held last October in Bangkok, to inform the Commissions about the outcomes of the conference. Ministers, high-level representatives, and the heads of the space community from more than 30 countries adopted two important documents that will guide our work in Asia-Pacific for the next decade: the Ministerial Declaration on Space Application for Sustainable Development in Asia and the Pacific, and the Asia-Pacific Plan of Action on Space Application for Sustainable Development 2018 to 2030. The Plan of Action is regionally coordinated, inclusive, and country needs, driven by blueprint that harnesses space and geospatial application, as well as digital innovation to support countries, particularly those with special needs, to achieve the 2030 Agenda. It maps the sectoral needs and resources at national and regional level and promote multi-sectoral coordination. The plan of action is fully aligned with ESCAP's regional roadmap for implementing the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development in Asia and the Pacific. It includes 188 actions in the following thematic areas: A. Disaster risk management. B. Natural resources management. C. Connectivity. D. Social development. E. Energy. And F. Climate change. All actions all significantly contribute to 37 targets of 14 goals of 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. The implementation modalities are through A. Research and knowledge sharing, B. Capacity building and technical support, and C. Intergovernmental discussion and regional practices. Among the three, capacity building and technical support has been identified by countries as the priority implementing the plan of action. The plan is divided into three implementation phases, each of 4-year duration, with ministerial conference to be convened at the end of each phase. Mr. Chairman, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, in light of the important role-based application we'll have in achieving sustainable development in Asia-Pacific, I invite all members of the Commission to endorse the Ministerial Declaration on Space Application for Sustainable Development in Asia and Pacific, and the Asia-Pacific Plan of Action on Special Application for Sustainable Development 2018 to 2030, through the just adopted resolution sponsored by the government of Thailand, co-sponsored by Indonesia, Philippines, and Vietnam. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your briefing. And may I now please invite His Excellency Mr. Syed Hamid Pura Mohammadi, Chair of Governing Council of the Asian Pacific Center for the Development of Disaster Information Management, to brief us on the meeting. Thank you.
Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. As the chair of the Governing Council of the AP team, I'm pleased to share with you key achievements reached by AP team since the last ESCAP Commission session. This has been an important year for AP team, where progress has been achieved in all areas of its mandate. At its third meeting in Tehran, 19 December 2018, the Governing Council participated in the operationalization of the premises for the center in Tehran and reviewed the administrative and financial status of AP team. The Council noted with appreciation the efforts made to give effect to the host country agreement and to the administrative and financial support agreement for the establishment of AP team in line with Commission Resolution 71/11. The Governing Council reviewed the Center's work since its second session and expressed its appreciation to the Center for initiating all the key programs of the approved work plan for 2018. In the field of disaster information management and disaster monitoring, with the aim to reduce human losses and material damages, AP team developed the Asia and Pacific Disaster Risk Atlas. The Risk Atlas offers an important overview of the geospatial transboundary hazards in the region, along with the exposure and vulnerability of population, economic stocks, and critical infrastructure. The analysis generated with this data was also instrumental to deliver the policy recommendations contained in the forthcoming Asia Pacific disaster report by the ESCAP Secretariat, underscoring AP team's contribution to the broader work of the Secretariat. AP team also organized a high-level regional meeting on disaster information management, December 2018, which led to an increased attention to the role AP team will play in capacity building and supporting the understanding of disaster losses in countries most at risk. In this connection, to strengthen capabilities and the capacities of countries in the field of disaster information management and risk reduction, AP team delivered a widely attended workshop on Sendai Framework Monitoring and Disaster Loss and Damages Assessment in Tehran on April 2019, and provide an important contribution to the response operation to the massive flood disaster in Iran in cooperation with UNDRR and UNDP. AP team also focused its work on the enhancement of regional cooperation and coordination in the field of disaster risk information management, including with a view to address the challenges related to the sand and dust storm phenomenon. AP team organized this side event on sand and dust storm during the Asia Ministerial Conference on Disaster Risk Reduction, AMCDRR, in Ulaanbaatar in July 2018, a regional consultative meeting on slow onset disaster risk reduction in Tehran, 5th to 6th November 2018, and more recently organized the AP team partnership meeting during the 6th session of the Global Platform for Disaster Risk Reduction in Geneva, just 2 weeks ago. I was privileged to personally attend this event and have been very pleased with the strong participation of regional and international institutions from all sectors of the disaster risk reduction community, expressing their interest in cooperation with AP team. The Governing Council further endorsed the Center's proposed work plan for 2019, fully aligned with the Commission's program of the work for 2020. Key elements of AP team's program for 2019 comprise the operationalization of the Asia-Pacific Disaster Risk Atlas as a regional repository of cross-border multi-hazard information, national capacity building on the Sendai Framework Monitor and disaster loss databases, the development of an action plan for sub-region cooperation mechanism for slow onset hazard with a focus on sand and dust storms in Southwest in Central Asia. The Council expressed appreciation to the government of the Islamic Republic of Iran for its continued funding and support to the center, and to the government of Macau, China, for its additional voluntary cash contribution, and encourage all ESCAP members and associate members to contribute to the center and participate in its program of work. In closing, I would like to take note of the ESCAP Secretariat's recent appointment of the director to lead the work of the center. Allow me, as a chair of the Governing Council and the host country of AP team, to say that the Islamic Republic of Iran looks forward to an even more productive year ahead for AP team. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, sir, for briefing us. The floor is now open for comment. And I'll ask Bangladesh, you have the floor.
Mr. Chair, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. In Bangladesh, the climate change and disaster risks are considered as the multiple crises and emerging challenges to continue our development momentum. You know, despite its extremely hazardous location, increased the frequency and intensity in disasters since the 1970s, and significant loss of GDP to disasters annually, Bangladesh has been able to continue to make progress in human development, food production, economic growth, and poverty reduction. At present, Bangladesh is working with a new dimension of paradigm shift from disaster response to risk reduction, strengthening disaster preparedness and management systems. Adoption of early warning technologies and dissemination systems increased the number of shelters, developed community-led volunteers. Legal and institutional framework has contributed in dramatic reduction of death tolls as well as building a more resilient Bangladesh. Bangladesh has developed a comprehensive plan of action to reduce the loss of lives, number of affected people, and economic loss in aligning with the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction, SDGs, and Climate Change Agreement. Excellencies, we have been reducing disaster mortality dramatically. In 1970s, the death tolls were around 1 million, which has been reduced to 138,000 in 1991 and stood on single digit in the recent cyclone Fani in April 2019. In reducing the flood risk, Bangladesh has constructed inclusive and gender and child responsive flood shelters. The deterministic flood warning is now 5 days in advance, while it is 10 days advance for probabilistic warning. The country developed strong early warning and cyclone tracking system. For this reason, now Bangladesh is recognized the role model of disaster risk management in regionally and also in globally. Distinguished delegates, Bangladesh implemented the number of disaster risk management activities, including large and small-scale disaster mitigation and climate change adaptation activities. Bangladesh established and operationalized National Disaster Response Coordination Center for risk and information sharing. Besides, for providing weather forecast and advisory and disaster early warning, we initiated toll-free interactive voice response by calling 1090. In reducing earthquake risk, Bangladesh also conducted seismic risk assessment and vulnerability map of different towns and developed national and local level earthquake contingency plans. The government has set its goal in the spirit, the slogan, Amar Gram, Amar Shahar, that means my village, my town, which clearly delineated the idea of essential service facilities for both rural and urban areas, with the motto of SDG, leaving no one left behind. Mr. Chair, disaster risk doesn't limit the boundary. Hence, we propose regional and international cooperation and on information and knowledge sharing, early warning sharing, and also science and technology, including use of space of disaster risk reduction. Thank you very much for kind attention.
Thank you, Bangladesh. Pakistan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We would like to appreciate the work done by ESCAP Secretariat during the intersessional period, and on this agenda item, including holding of the third ministerial conference on space applications for sustainable development in Asia, and generation of the useful report entitled Addressing Disaster Resilience Through Digital and Geospatial Innovations. We would also like to appreciate the Asia Pacific Center for Development of Disaster Information Management, APTIM, for initiating the key programs of the approved work plan. Pakistan is vulnerable to a host of natural disasters due to its diverse topographic and demographic settings, including geological and hydrometeorological events. Most of these, induced by impacts of climate change, have not only become more unpredictable, but their frequency has increased as well. These disasters also negatively impact our socio-economic indicators. The government has taken significant steps and adopted long-term policies for disaster risk management and allied capacity building measures, including our National Disaster Management Act of 2010 and establishment of National Disaster Management Authority at federal and provincial and regional disaster management authorities in provinces. Our National Disaster Management Plan is based on scientific data and analysis and macro-level hazard and risk assessment, and is in line with the Sendai Framework for Action. Mr. President, we actively participated in the third session of APDIM's Governing Council as Vice Chair, and we have offered to host the fourth session of the Governing Council of APDIM in 2019. Thank you.
Thank you, Pakistan. Japan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, our delegation would like to express our sincere appreciation to the ESCAP Secretariat's efforts on disaster risk reduction. Using this opportunity, Mr. Chair, we would like to share some of our activities and our views on this issue. Government of Japan has been organizing the Global Earth Observation System of Systems, GEOSS, Asia Pacific Symposium, together with the Group of Earth Observations, GEO Secretariat, since 2007, with the aim of support for the research community on Earth observation and deeper common understanding on the environment and other issues in the region. The 11th Symposium last October adopted Kyoto Statement 2018, which includes actions to be taken for the priority areas such as SDGs, Paris Agreement, and Sendai Framework. Mr. Chair, research and development using space applications that allows us widely capture the detailed damage situation and to share, immediately share the damage information. Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, JAXA, proposed and is now leading the Sentinel Asia initiative, which is an international cooperation project with the aim of contributing to the disaster risk management in the Asia and the Pacific. Since its establishment in 2006, JAXA has responded to more than 300 requests and provided disaster damage information. We hope that through the cooperation with the ESCAP, Sentinel Asia will become more common and effectively used in the region. Finally, JAXA is also contributing to the discussion on space applications for SDGs, such as through supporting the preparation for Asia-Pacific Plan of Action on Space Applications for Sustainable Development 2018 to 2030, which was adopted last year, sharing the outcomes of space applications for environment safe initiatives, and contributing to other activities on safety and climate change in the region. Thank you.
Thank you, Japan. India, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. India believes that disaster risk reduction is one of the greatest challenges that we face today. The contributions of space science, digital innovations, and geospatial information applications in addressing disaster-related challenges is well recognized. India will be happy to play a significant role in implementing the space-based support for capacity building and technical collaboration. With the help of current and planned future Earth observation satellites, Indian Space Research Organization, ISRO, will continue to strive to actively engage and contribute towards various activities of ESCAP, including achieving the regional SDGs. Mr. Chair, I am happy to inform the forum that India's success in combating disaster due to Cyclone Fani through accurate and effective early warning system with sufficient lead period has been appreciated by the United Nations and other agencies. India's focused attention and investment in cyclone risk mitigation has yielded dividends in saving precious human lives. This success in management of efforts of Fani was possible due to availability of precise weather prediction models and observation from ocean data and coastal weather radars. Various numerical weather prediction models developed by Ministry of Earth Sciences and dynamic statistical models were utilized to predict the genesis, path, landfall, and intensity of the cyclone. Regular warning and advisory bulletins to national and state disaster management agencies, general public, and media were issued. 3 hourly updates during the cyclone and hourly updates from 1 day prior to the landfall were also issued. The warning bulletin also contained suggested action plan for disaster managers and general public. Indian Meteorological Department also shared regular bulletins with WMO, ESCAP panel member countries including Bangladesh, Myanmar, Sri Lanka, and Thailand. India would like to further share its success story and experience in handling disasters with UN ESCAP members. India is committed to strengthen the weather and climate services. Based on the National Disaster Management Plan of 2016, all states and more than 95% of districts in India have prepared their disaster management plans. Our focused attention through issuance of appropriate national guidelines on heat wave action planning, localization of heat wave early warning, and extensive public awareness campaign has yielded positive results. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, I am happy to report that heat wave related deaths have decreased in India from over 2,000 in 2015 to 25 in 2018. India provides capacity building support to the countries in the region by providing regular training and tropical monitoring, forecasting and warning services. A regional specialized meteorological center at New Delhi is the regional center to provide daily regional severe weather guidance to the member countries including Bangladesh, Bhutan, Nepal, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Sri Lanka, Maldives, Myanmar, and Thailand. The extended range forecast system of India has the capability of predicting active break cycle of monsoons, which can be used for applications in sectors like agriculture, water, power, health, and disaster risk reduction. Mr. Chair, ladies and gentlemen, India hosted the first BIMSTEC disaster management exercise in October 2017, which provided a platform for member countries for sharing best practices. In February 2019, India hosted a meeting on disaster risk management of the Indian Ocean Rim Association. India has been actively pursuing the theme of disaster resilient infrastructure and has initiated a dialogue with more than 40 countries to build a coalition for disaster resilient infrastructure. In order to further develop the notion of a coalition, India, in collaboration with UNISDR, has hosted international workshops on disaster resilient infrastructure in January 2018 and March 2019. India reaffirms its commitment towards a joint participatory approach and appreciates the positive role played by ESCAP. Thank you.
Thank you, India. Thailand, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ladies and gentlemen, Thailand is under the process of revision the new National Disaster Risk Management Plan after 5 years of implementation. This plan needs to be revised with relevant stakeholders, including 23 ministries and organizations. There are focal points. The updated data and information are gathered to support the new National Disaster Risk Management Plan. It will provide clear indicators in the new DRM plan. Currently, we have implemented Sendai frameworks, SDG, and CCA. from national level to local authorities according to Target E of Sendai Framework of Risk Assessment Guideline. For flood, we have been formulated from national and will be tested into the pilot area in the local level within 2020. The disaster preparedness for the public in terms of evacuation drills, which will be conducted in our country, Thailand, this year. There are two exercises, namely, first, tsunami in the 6 Andaman coastal provinces in the end of June this year, and we would like to test the effectiveness of early warning system and raise public awareness for Thailand and foreigners in tourist destination. Second, the INSARAC Asia Pacific Regional Earthquake Response Exercise in Chiang Mai from 9 to 13 December this year. With the collaboration of UN OSHA Regional Office, we still have the challenge of data and information for disaster management. The relevant organization and international organization need to be support from the UN ESCAP Statistics Office, UNDRR, GIZ, and National Statistics Office of Thailand to achieve the SDGs, Sendai, and global frameworks. Thank you.
Thank you, Thailand. Philippines, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Philippines views disaster resilience as one of our bedrock strategies in our Philippine Development Plan for 2017-2022, as well as in our counterpart subnational regional development plans. At the provincial level, the Philippine government, through the National Economic Development Authority, has conducted capacity building for provincial planners to mainstream climate change and disaster risk reduction in their provincial development plans and physical framework plans. For cities and municipalities, guidelines have been issued to integrate climate change and disaster risk reduction in comprehensive land use plans and comprehensive development plans. To guide project implementation, the Green Building Code of 2016 was formulated to provide standards for energy efficiency, water conservation, material sustainability, site suitability, and waste management. Our specific projects and actions include the following. Number one, the second Disaster Risk Management Development Policy Loan with Catastrophe Deferred Drawdown Option, CAT-DDO2, is a drawdown quick access facility that the Republic can tap to supplement its budget in the event that the President declares a national state of calamity and the Finance Secretary and the Budget Secretary deems it necessary to access such facility to augment funds. Number two, the Parametric Insurance Program pilot is a 2 billion peso transaction executed through the special provision of our National Disaster Risk Reduction Management Fund section of our General Appropriations Act. The program is a continuation of the pilot launched in July 2017, which provides typhoon and earthquake insurance cover for 25 highly vulnerable provinces. Number three, the Philippine City Disaster Insurance Pool, PCDIP, aims to design and structure an insurance pool among vulnerable cities in the country through technical assistance from the Asian Development Bank. It aims to teach highly vulnerable cities on how to quantify risks they are exposed to, such that each city could choose the insurance package fitted to their requirements. Number four, the policy support for low-carbon development of the energy sector is a global partnership and knowledge-sharing platform that brings together key actors to build market readiness capacity for countries to scale up climate change mitigation efforts. It aims to help the country identify the most feasible and efficient carbon pricing instruments, or CPIs, to support the achievement of the country's nationally determined contribution in the energy sector. Number five, enhancing green finance under the UK's Prosperity Fund, Southeast Asia Low Carbon Energy Program, which aims to establish a green finance task force that will plan for green infrastructure and how to meet the country's NDC goals by leveraging green finance to boost sustainable investments in the country. And finally, Mr. Chair, number 6, the Biodiversity Finance Initiative, or BioFin project, of our Department of Environment and Natural Resources Biodiversity Management Bureau with UNDP Philippines, on which the project seeks to close the financing gap for the conservation and sustainable use of biological diversity. We thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Philippines. China, you have the floor.
谢谢主席先生。主席先生，中方赞赏 ESCAP 在减灾领域开展的各项合作，特别是利用信息通信、空间技术以及空间地理信息支持本地区国家开展减灾防灾的各项工作。我们认识到，当前自然灾害给区域各国发展带来的经济损失越来越大。为此，我们希望 ESCAP 在这些领域进一步加强机制建设和能力建设，为增强区域国家发展韧性提供支撑。多年来，中方与 ESCAP 在减灾领域开展了大量富有成效的合作。中方致力于为发展中国家提供能力建设，分享中国减灾经验。过去1年，中国政府在 ESCAP 区域空间技术应用项目 RESAP 机制下，积极为亚太地区遭受台风、地震、海啸、旱灾、洪水等自然灾害的国家，提供近100项卫星遥感数据、产品、工具和系统服务。中方为 ESCAP 区域旱灾机制框架下的合作提供了广泛的技术资助和资金支持，在利用遥感信息开展农业旱灾监测系统的推广应用方面也发挥了重要作用。主席先生，中国赞赏去年10月在曼谷举办的第3届亚太空间应用部长会议取得的重要成果。中国积极参与了亚太空间技术应用促进可持续发展行动计划的制定，在利用空间地理信息开展减灾防灾、自然资源管理、农业监测与估产、生态与环境保护、农业和林业和渔业发展等领域，中国已经开展了18个应用系统。中方愿意加强与 ESCAP 在上述各方面的合作，积极支持行动计划的实施。谢谢主席先生。
Thank you, China. And again, thank both chairs here for briefing us. And now draw attention to draft decisions 11, 12, and 13 as contained in CRP 1. Do I take it that we can recommend draft decisions 11, 12, and 13 for adoption? It is so decided. At this time, we shall break for lunch and resume our consideration of the next agenda item this afternoon. And may I remind all distinguished delegates to return to this conference room at 2 p.m. sharp. And I understand Secretary of the Commission has some announcements. Thank you, Mr. Xie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good afternoon to everybody. If I could just hold your attention for just a couple of minutes, I have some important announcements regarding the election of the governing councils. Several delegations have been asking the Secretariat what will the procedure be, and I wanted to just explain briefly here so that everybody can understand how the voting will take place tomorrow. So the elections for the two governing councils of APTIM and of SIAP, they will be held in ESCAP Hall between 10 a.m. and 12:30 p.m. Each delegation wishing to vote can show up in the room. Each delegation will get 1 vote. you'll need to present your ID. The voting delegate will need to sign the registration form, and that way we can ensure that everybody's just voting, every country is just voting once. Just a reminder, associate members can stand for election, and in this case, Macau has put its name up for both APTIM and SEAP, but according to the terms of reference, oddly, associate members cannot cast a vote, but they can stand for elections. Once your delegate has received the ballot paper will list all of the nominees for that governing council. So again, APTIM has 8 nominees for 8 seats. SEAP has 14 nominees for 8 seats. You can vote for as many or as few nominees as you wish, up to the number of vacant seats, which is 8. So you can cast a vote for 1, 2, 6, or up to 8. And may I remind delegations that are standing for election to please vote for yourself. Once all the ballots have been cast and the election closes at 12:30, the counting of the ballots will begin, and delegations, of course, are welcome to observe the counting of the ballots. Those results will be unofficial. We will announce the results officially under agenda item 10 tomorrow afternoon. And that's it for elections of the governing council. Are there any questions regarding the procedures I've just outlined? Okay, if none, then I just want to remind everybody, we have again a series of side events this afternoon during lunch hour. They all begin at 1 p.m., so you do have a little bit of time to grab a quick bite to eat before attending the side events. Let me just remind you what they are. The first one is an example of the cooperation between member states, ESCAP, and UNFPA that was mentioned by the chair of the Population Conference. It's entitled Moving the Asian and Pacific Ministerial Declaration on Population and Development Agenda Forward, Filling the Gaps Identified by the Midterm Review. This will be held in meeting room H on level 1, the floor below. The second event today is entitled India, Assuming a Leadership Role in SDGs and Developing a Unique Monitoring Framework. It's organized by the Government of India in cooperation with the ESCAP Secretariat, and please note, the information on the flyer is incorrect. The event will actually be held in conference room 4 on level 1. And our third and final event today is organized by the Government of Pakistan and the ESCAP Secretariat and is entitled Civil Registration and Identity for All, a Pathway for the Sustainable Development Goals. That event will be held in meeting room A, also on level 1. Thank you for your attention, and thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Deputy Executive Secretary. The meeting is adjourned.